Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaron from Jeranism. We're back with yet another live video for you today. Crowdsource the truth. Flat Earth. Are you guys for real? Or are you guys serious? We've got a few of us. It's not just me. I've got some guests joining me. As always, it's going to be a fun show. We've got, starting off to my whatever side that is over there, Dave Weiss from Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jaron. Excited for the show. It's been a long time coming.
It's a nice cabin you got there. Must be nice.
Must be nice.
We've also got below me, Rose 777. Rose, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. Remember to unmute.
Unmute, Rose.
Rose, man, what a good start to the show. Let's start all over.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello.
And we've also got joining us, a lot of people know him well. He's a YouTube favorite. He's from Crowdsource the Truth. His links are all in the description to his channel. Also, Jason, I put down there your Patreon and PayPal. So if people want to support the good work that you're doing, fantastic. He is Jason Goodman. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thank you, Jaron. Nice to see you guys.
Yeah, thanks. So I've been, seeing Jason's videos for a long time, but then at the beginning of the protests, the lockdown, I caught one of Jason's stream where he was walking through Brooklyn and really standing up for New York, standing up for truth, and it blew me away. I immediately became a patron, and I've watched almost every show he's done ever since. He does shows with Oli Damagard a couple times a week,
once a week on Mondays.
Once a week, and he's really doing important work. So there's different people that we like inviting on the show. People that slam Flat Earth. I love getting them on there because I got my fighting gloves up. I've only heard you go, Flat Earth, I don't know about that. That's all I know about your views on Flat Earth. You could elaborate in a minute. But I want to talk to you about Flat Earth. But one thing is, I was hesitant going, do I want Jason focusing on Flat Earth? Not that you're going to drop what you do, because what you do is essentially important. The truth seekers out there, there's Jason Goodmans. Then there's Jarons and Roses and Davids that do this over here. And then there's, Crow 777. And all together, I think we make a good truth soup. So I love your work. I figured, if you know the globe lie, like we like to call it, if you can see the globe lie, maybe your work will get even better if your feet are planted on familiar ground. Rose, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to open up with sharing a little bit about how I came to Flat Earth, and then I'll let the experts take it away. This is very new for me. I joined Crow 777 Radio in 2017, and Crow is an amateur astronomer. He's captured so many interesting things in the sky that have made people question things. And the Flat Earth topic was kind of coming up here and there, and he never said anything flat out. The earth is flat, but he would always say the earth is misdescribed. And there were so many things that were making me question things. But I think to myself, what is it with this flat earth topic? I don't feel comfortable with it. It's got to be ridiculous. All of the people in my life at the time that I respected were saying, don't look at this. It's a psyop. It's for people that don't understand science. And so I took it upon myself one day to do my own personal observation. And I won't go into the details of the math right now because you can always do that on your own, but I'm on the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain, it has a bridge that is 24 miles wide. And from one side of the lake, I was able to zoom in with a P1000 to see the roof of the Superdome. And with 8 inches per mile square, which is NASA's math for the Earth's curvature, I should not have been able to see that roof. And it was unmistakable. It's a bright white roof. It couldn't have been anything else. And a lot of people who believe in the spinning ball think that this is a result of refraction. But if you actually know how light works, it doesn't bend over a curve. It can be misdirected in a straight line, but it can't curve. So that's not a valid argument. So then I thought to myself, okay, well, they're hiding something. Maybe they're hiding hidden lands and it's actually a bigger ball. And that's where the extraterrestrials actually come from. And I had all of these questions, but I just decided to look into it more and more and more, because just like David, I wanted to prove that flat Earth was wrong. And I looked into more experiments, like putting lasers over big frozen lakes, and it not, even though it would be a massive ball beyond comprehension to the human eye, you would still be able to detect curvature by their math standards. But at any rate, that's what got me into this. I was so embarrassed at first to ever mention this to any friends and family. But now, during this time, because of the mass deception that is occurring, if people can wake up to the fact that we have been lied to about this, let alone the moon landing and let alone a fake illness, this would really help people to understand, take it upon themselves to really question things. And other things that I would also bring up, just something, Crow is my personal friend. I went and I took footage right from his computer that has not been altered. And we created a film called Shoot the Moon. And I'll go ahead and I'll send you a link so that you can see it for free. And he has filmed every solar eclipse that has been going on for the past couple of years. And he has proven that the moon plays no role into an eclipse. If the sun is the brightest thing that we have, then the moon would be backlit by it. You would be able to see it moving in front of the sun. Why is it that we never hear about this? We got to get more eyes on the sky. So I need people out there to get telescopes, film eclipses, film the interesting things in the sky. Another interesting idea to consider is that you can zoom in on the moon and put it in focus and then move it over, and other luminaries will still be in focus. How would that be possible if there were millions and billions of miles farther away than the moon? And sometimes people would chalk it up to the way that the camera works, but this can also be done with a telescope. So these are just things to think about, something for people to look on their own. And so anyway, thank you for letting me open up with that. I believe that the earth is flat, and I'm willing to consider that I'm wrong. And so I'm always keeping my mind open. So take it away, Jaron and David.
Well, I think, Jason, the other thing that's important to me for people to understand is I think flat earth has such a stigma against it, right? So I think that's what causes a lot of people to be very standoffish of it, because of the idea of being a flat earther is considered the worst thing that you could ever possibly be. It's the dumbest belief you could ever have. I've tried to rename it a little bit True Earth, because I think if anybody, and I want to read a comment that somebody wrote in the chat earlier, which I thought was strange. Maybe you can help explain it to me. Someone in the chat named Rupert Twine said that he knows you're a great journalist and a great human being, and said that they know what you say about True Earth. So today's show should be interesting. So I don't know if you've ever mentioned that. I don't know where they were
What
getting.
I say about True Earth? I have never heard the term True Earth before. You just mentioned it right now.
Okay, that's why I was wondering if this person who made the comment maybe made a mistake, but he was saying you're a great journalist and a great person, and
Thank you.
said they know what you say about True Earth. But really what it comes down to is you have realized, if anybody, that we're in a world of deception, right? We're lied to at every turn. So really what flat earth is a realization that, if you go back and look at the history of how NASA began and everything that they've done from the beginning, and you really look at some of these ideas that are considered proofs, they all can be disproven. Now, again, does that mean, and when we say flat earth, a lot of people think of a piece of paper and they say, well, the earth clearly isn't flat. We're not a flat piece. We're not saying it's two-dimensional, right? Of course, we're saying there's hills and valleys and peaks and mountains, ocean floors, whatever. But what we're really saying in a nutshell is that the oceans, like all water, lie flat. They lie level. That's what water is. That's how you determine what's level. And we don't believe that water bends around an entire giant ball and is held up in outer space. There's a lot of people who start to see it. I mean, Michael Tellinger, David Avocado Wolf, these people that have looked into it, maybe they don't come out and say, oh, I'm now a flat earther, because of the stigma that goes with it. But what they say is there's some major problems with the ball. And we get the same thing from people like Jeff Berwick. So a lot of people that, I respect their research, you being one of them, and, the things you brought out. A lot of people might know you from your interview with Dershowitz, calling him out for his absolute nonsense. Recently, I saw your interview with Alex Jones. So you do a lot of good work. And I think that if you ever did really start to look into this, at the very least, what you would have to come out and say is, well, yeah, you're right. It appears that there's issues with this model that we've all been sold is so true. And there's no question about it that we're flying in space, and that the sun that we see is, 867,000 miles wide, which is, to a lot of us ridiculous now at this point when we see evidence with, crepuscular rays and other such things. So I do want to get into that with you. I will ask you one question just to get started, so I can kind of at least get a gauge for where you are with some items. Do you think that we've been to the moon?
Before I answer that directly, I just want to lay down a few things, because everybody's had a chance to speak and there have been a couple questions asked. So first of all, I do not believe the flat earth theory. I believe the earth is a globe, that we have a solar system and planets and gravity and things going around the sun. I believe that. What I've been taught about that and told about that seems plausible, seems scientifically based. However, my approach to anything in general is that I am really fond of topics that, when they're brought to my attention, seem absolutely ridiculous, but are then supported by strong evidence that makes them impossible to ignore. Now, a couple people have used the word proof, and I want to say I will not be using that word. I do not like the word proof, because proof is a dynamic sort of word, in that if we're talking about proof in a mathematical problem, that's a different standard than proof in a civil court case. It's a different standard of proof in a criminal court case. If we go to Canada, if we go to England, proof means a lot of different things. So I think it's more useful if we talk about elements of evidence, and there can be contradictory evidence, there can be confusing evidence. Rose was talking about how could something further away than the moon also be in focus if the moon is in focus. That can be explained by an optical phenomenon called the hyperfocal distance, where beyond, once something is in focus, and depending on the characteristics of the lens in terms of its aperture, its focal length, other characteristics, the size of the imaging plane, things beyond a certain distance will all be in focus. So what I've found when I've had these discussions with friends of mine who support this flat earth theory so far, and I'm not saying that I've heard every element of evidence, but the evidence that's been brought to my attention has been able to be disproven by stronger evidence like what I just shared with you. Now, the other example that Rose gave us, and these are interesting and good experiments to do, but I presume if we spoke to whoever at NASA decided that 8 squared, whatever that formula you gave us to calculate the curvature, that is a rough formula. I would assume that doesn't take into account that if you stood in the bottom of a valley and did that, obviously it wouldn't work. I don't know what the geography is of that area of New Orleans where you were looking. Perhaps you were in a lower plane where, you're looking over and there's some variation. We know it's not a perfectly spherical globe. There's relief and ups and downs in the surface. So again,
just on that one, that's why we're talking about doing observations over water.
Right. That's interesting. I don't necessarily have an answer for that, but I also want to make sure that we don't conflate. Yes, we are lied to about a lot of things, but that doesn't necessarily mean if someone has said, 19 pilots who had never flown a jet before and had low hours flying a Cessna were able to operate a 767 well beyond its performance envelope and fly it at 580 miles an hour into a building that's 100 feet wider than it. I believe that's a lie. I do not find it plausible that someone who's never flown a jet before could achieve that. And I think there's another explanation for what happened there. But I want to make sure, certainly I won't do this, and I want to make sure that our viewers and other people who are evaluating this information do not conflate one lie about something with another topic and presume that to mean that we must be lied to about this as well. So there's my sort of basic premise. And also, Dave's been on the show. I enjoyed Dave as a guest. A lot of our viewers wanted me to speak to Dave about this. So I am opening the floor to you guys to educate me, because frankly, I do not believe the earth is flat, and it's going to be tough to convince me otherwise.
Can I just
Yeah,
respond
so
to what you
let
said
me
really quick? I just want to respond to what you said
Go
about
ahead,
the Lake
Rose.
Pontchartrain thing. And thank you so much for bringing up the optical lens
Hyperfocal
details.
distance.
Hyperfocal distance. I'm totally going to look into that afterwards, because either I'm going to stop talking about that, or I'm going to discover something new that will help or, hurt my argument. So thank you very much for that. That's the first time I've ever presented that as evidence for something. But when it comes to Louisiana, this is the first thing that just popped into my mind. And again, there might be another logical explanation for it. But aside from the fact that we're looking over the 24 miles of water, which is sea level and supposed to be totally flat without hills or valleys or anything like that, if you even look at a map of Louisiana, it's swamp territory.
Yeah.
And as you get closer to the coast, you're actually going below sea level.
Right. That's what the whole point of the levees are, is that the city is below sea level. I mean, again, I don't know. We'd have to speak to somebody who knows about geography.
So that would even bring it even lower. So it actually support. I believe that supports my argument more. All other things considered, I just wanted to throw that out there just to add to your contemplation on that particular example. That's all.
Sure.
So one other thing I want to point out before we really dive in is, if the flat Earth was true, there was a globe lie going on, it would be a very well protected secret. And we'll get into why would they lie? Because that's the inevitable question that always comes up. There is so much disinformation out there. And as you know, with the censorship on YouTube, if you Google flat Earth, you get all the propaganda. You end up at the Flat Earth Society, which is not us. The Flat Earth Society is pure nonsense. It is to make somebody, hey, I'm going to research flat Earth. Go to Flat Earth Society. Oh, you stay there for 10 minutes, you'll never look into flat Earth again. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. And that's where you end up if you don't have guidance on, finding the proper information.
All right.
Okay.
I'm looking at Flat Earth Society right now.
Yeah, don't, because we're not so here's the thing. We don't
Mad Mike Hughes.
Yeah. So again, this is all disinformation. The Flat Earth Society, makes you think that we're the only flat planet and the other planets are round. Well, we don't believe in other planets. We don't believe in terra firma above the Earth plane. We're not, you don't go to the edge of Earth and fall into space. That's not what we believe, but that's what mainstream wants you to believe. And just a quick note on Mike Hughes. Mike is a stuntman, crazy stuntman, like Evel Knievel, but not as good. And he was looking for some funding for his stunt, not to prove the Earth is flat, just a stunt. And a couple of flat earthers went to him and said, hey, if we raise your $7,000, will you write flat Earth on your rocket? Just as a billboard. Not that you're proving flat Earth, we thought he'd have a huge audience. People would say, what? Flat Earth or Earth is flat or whatever it said. It was just a billboard. The media ran that story everywhere. That went out on every publication that this crazy man was going to kill himself trying to prove the Earth is flat, jumping 1,800 feet in the sky. So why did that go viral?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And we all talked about it and said what's going to happen is this guy's going to end up dying. So
when did that happen?
When did he die?
Last year.
I don't know. When did he launch this rocket and did he die?
Yeah, he did. He died.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
What an idiot.
Yeah.
That's called Darwinism right there.
Yeah, but they blame it on flat earthers. None of us believe, he wasn't trying to prove the Earth is flat. He was a flat earther, but that had nothing to do with proving the Earth is flat.
No,
you're not going to see curvature from the distance that he would have gone if he had been successful.
All right. So, Darren, unless you want to say something, I always like to start with.
I want to go back and ask the question again because I think it's important.
What was that? Do I believe we went to the moon? You asked.
Right.
So this is a very good question because you see that is separate from whether or not the Earth is flat. The most compelling thing that I've heard that caused me to question if we went to the moon or not, because I've looked at a lot of that evidence, and there's a lot of evidence that causes me to think that we did, and then there's evidence that causes me to question if we did. But who's the most famous guy for making movies about?
Stanley Kubrick.
No, not Stanley Kubrick. The guy
Bart
who made
Sobral.
Bart, yes. Bart does a video where he says that, in the 1960s, we're at the height of the Cold War, and that staging this would have been, in his premise, economic warfare against the Soviet Union at a time when that was very important. And I said, that is the first compelling argument that makes me think of a motivation for doing it. That would make sense. And in order for that bit of economic warfare to work, the citizens of the United States and all the citizens of the world would have to be convinced. So that's a compelling motive for faking it. And then when we look at the other footage, again, that's another one where a lot of the evidence, almost all of the evidence that's presented is sort of speculative and hypothetical questions that often can be answered by scientific phenomenon, whether it has to do with photography, lighting, looking at two-dimensional representations of things that exist three-dimensionally and drawing incorrect conclusions. A lot of that has been debunked by compelling claims, but I would say I lean towards believing that we did go to the moon, but I am very open to more evidence that could convince me otherwise. And the number one thing I think that could be done by NASA or anyone who wanted to prove one way or the other that has not been done is it's never been well explained to me why in 2020, between the incredible megapixel resolution of digital cameras, the amazing optical power of telescopes, why can't someone, particularly during one of these, red moon or whenever it's the closest that it is in 30 whatever years, why can't they point a telescope at the damn thing and show me the car that they landed there? I don't understand why they can't do that. I have spoken to someone who works at JPL who said that there are mirrors that were placed on the moon that they shoot lasers at to make measurements. Now, I have no way of verifying that myself, but if there was like a Moonwatch website that you could go to that says like, okay, at such and such a time, when the moon is at this location on this date at this time, look at the website and you'll see the car will be visible or the lander will be visible. Why not do that?
Yeah, they've never done that. And I mean, the bigger question too is why haven't they gone back? Like you said,
that becomes a financial and political question, though, because Congress says no, and then people say, "Oh, they lost the technology to do it." I actually have an explanation for that. I have DLT tapes in storage right over there that in 1990, whatever, I was able to throw it into the computer and get it to load on. But now the DLT drive has failed. That type of DLT drive is very difficult to find. The software that ran the DLT drive, the company's out of business. The operating system that it worked with is generations old. So getting that legacy technology to do what it was able to do 10 or 15 years ago would take such a tremendous effort for me. It's almost more sensible just to design a whole new system from the ground up. And if you're talking about NASA and an infinitely more complex system, I think those type of occurrences could accumulate to the extent that you just can't make the thing work again without starting from scratch.
They did it in 1969. So think of how far technology has come since then. Think of the computing power. Think of the the absolute ease of building rockets, that they launch these rockets constantly. It almost seems like they're launching rockets daily. And it's not like it would take extra fuel, right? You get out into space, supposedly you launch off and you just head over to the moon. You're in that orbit, you land, you get out, you do all the things. I mean, they should be able, I made a video called Why Haven't You Done This Yet, NASA, as far as putting a camera on the moon, showing the Earth. Something that should be so easy. They'd be able to pay for it with just advertisements, right? Imagine we could go to a website that's called earthfrommoon.com. And it's a camera on the moon showing the Earth. It would always be showing the Earth, right? Because the side of the moon that faces the Earth always faces the Earth. And you'd have a Target logo, a Pizza Hut logo.
Kickstarter, Jaron, Kickstarter. That's a new business, man. I love it. It's a good idea.
But they also could show the eclipse from the moon. You know, they've never shown us.
They could and they would, but I want to be careful that we don't go too far down the road of speculation. All of these things we can sit here and speculate about how easy they might be, but NASA can't just conjure up billions of dollars and build rockets. We see what's happening now with SpaceX. I was watching an interesting show about SpaceX talking about how their rocket has advanced in the same time frame that NASA has been designing the SLS. And they explained that NASA cannot function in the way, if Elon Musk and a boardroom of maybe 8 people sit together and say, we're going to do this, they can turn on a dime. NASA needs to get funding from Congress. And if you're the representative from Tennessee, you want this rocket facility to be used because it's going to bring jobs to your state. That SLS is a conglomeration of old space shuttle technology with new technology. It becomes a bureaucratic system. It's the difference between the post office and FedEx. When you've got to send something critical, if you're sending something to court and it's got to be there tomorrow and you don't want any mistakes, are you going to the post office or are you going to FedEx? I think most people think most of the time FedEx gets it done better because it's a private company and it might cost more. But I think there's a lot of factors like that come into play.
Jason, can you see the moonlander over my shoulder there? I mean, if you take a close look at a high-res picture of that moonlander, it looks like it's made out of papier-mâché, tinfoil, duct tape, and curtain rods. And supposedly 2 guys and a car were in there with golf clubs and all sorts of stuff.
And what is your knowledge of the, how would you explain human beings being able to go through the Van Allen radiation belts?
I can't say that I have any firsthand knowledge of radiation, what its effect is on you. I'll tell you what, I talk to Larry Nichols every week. Do you guys know who Larry Nichols is? How can I explain how a 70-year-old man can smoke 500 cigarettes a day, have double pneumonia, and I'm telling you, the last time I spoke to him, I said to myself, that's the last conversation I'm ever going to have with him. Then a few days later, he called me and he's like, hey, buddy, let's do a show. And it's like, wow, he sounds great. So I can't explain these types of things. I don't have any knowledge about radiation, the Van Allen belts. I will say this about the Van Allen radiation belts. The very first broadcast satellite that went up was called the Telstar satellite. And I'd have to refer to Wikipedia, but the Telstar satellite, we are told, stopped transmitting. Let me just see if I can find it here. Satellite. It stopped transmitting in like sometime here. Where does it say? 1962. It was launched on July 10th, 1962, and it relayed first television pictures and telephone calls. And then something happened to it with the Van Allen radiation belt where they tell us that it stopped functioning. But that's what they're telling us. How do we know it stopped functioning? It could still be functioning.
Jason, how do we know that it was actually ever working, that it wasn't just data being sent? And earlier you said that faking the moon could cause a problem with Russia. How do we know that we really are at war against Russia, or is that just part of the divide and conquer? Maybe Russia and the U.S. have always been in it together.
I mean, we could get down to the question of how do I know that anything around me here, including this computer, you guys, everything I'm perceiving could be a figment of my imagination.
Well, we're not going there. We're not going there.
Well, but we should, because if we're going to question everything like that, we need to understand that every individual perceives the world through the filter of their own brain. And that's coming from your eyes, your ears, my vision, my perception, focus, my ability to discern stereoscopic things. I'm going to see certain things that other people cannot see. If someone has strabismus or other visual problems, they're not going to be able to see the world stereoscopically. They're not going to notice certain things. And so we each have different levels of perception. Right. And I just want to deal with the things that we can really,
So let me ask you a question. If we can prove that NASA is lying of something,
cannot prove it. You could present me with evidence that would support that theory, but I don't think we can prove it.
Well, there's countless videos of them getting caught in their wires when they're on the space station. They're floating around. The photos of Earth, they admit they don't have photos of Earth. They admit that they're all constructs. This picture right here. There's the United States. You can see some of South America. The rest of the continents of the world are on the other side of that ball. This is an official photo from NASA. This official photo from NASA. Why would they fake a photo like this?
Well, I can't say, I'm not going to agree that we draw the conclusion that the photo is fake. I've done a lot of photographic work, and there are often things that you do to make a particular photograph more presentable to the audience that's going to view it that don't necessarily substantially alter the content of it. Again, you're dealing with photographic principles with lenses, telephoto lenses with focal lengths that are so long, they introduce all kinds of optical distortions. I'm not trying to hold water for NASA. I'm just saying there's too many factors here that I don't know about to be able to answer that question definitively.
Here's another photo, two photos. I forget how many years apart, 10 years apart or whatever, Jaron. If you look at the size of the United States, the one on the top is twice the size. Now, and these balls are the same size if you measure them. They're
how far away was the camera? What was the focal length of the lens? It does.
It doesn't matter if you're showing the whole ball and they're both printed at the same time.
No. That's totally wrong. So what I want you to do later is get a telephoto camera lens. Have you ever seen, it's called a zoom compression shot. It's called a Zolly shot. It's called a vertigo shot. Mm-hmm. If I get on a dolly, a wheeled camera thing, and I get far away from you and I zoom in with my zoom lens so that your head is a fixed size in the frame. Mm-hmm. And then I get a dolly grip to push the dolly towards you while I zoom out slowly, keeping the size of your head the same size in the frame. The background will wildly distort in this optical compression that is normally used to convey a sense of bizarreness. Like if a character is feeling isolated, they might smash the background and make them feel compressed. If a character's mind is being open to something, they might move it in the other way, and it creates this distorted optical effect that someone might look at and say, how is that possible?
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I don't like these open-ended questions where we're asking, how could this happen if not blah, blah, blah. I prefer definitively answering things, or where we can't definitively answer them, presenting you guys with things like hyperfocal distance, like zoom compression, like how telephoto versus wide angle affects the look. This is a two-dimensional representation of a sphere taken with a camera from some distance to the thing, presented here at some size. Like in terms of if we were dealing with this in a court, the chain of custody on this evidence, I have no idea where this has been, what processing this has been through, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
We also could just sit here and make excuses for everything all day as well, right? I mean, we could
not excuses.
Well,
We got to talk about the principles of physics, the principles of photography, how this imagery is acquired, how it is presented, the practical aspects of the materials that we're looking at.
I'm familiar with the kind of film that you're talking about where it looks like it's zoomed in and then the person becomes more clear and then the background becomes distorted. And I'm just curious, when we're focusing on that idea and I'm looking at that globe representation, it doesn't look like let's say we were going to focus on the continent and then the other things around it don't look distorted. If we were going to go with that example, what would the rest of the globe look like, and wouldn't it make the sphere shape around it distorted as well? I'm just curious about trying to understand the kind of camera optics that you're describing.
Right. There's a couple different principles that I might have confused you with an imprecise explanation. So what I'm talking about is there is a compression that happens. So you were talking before about how could something be in focus past the moon or whatever. There's a couple different things happening. There's something called depth of field, which if you watch, there's an interview that I just saw with Joe Biden where I believe right now broadcast television is trying to differentiate itself from what we're doing here. This is a podcast, right? So we've got Jaron sitting in his office there, and he and his microphone are very close to the camera, but that poster on the wall and the corner of the closet are considerably further from the camera, yet it's all fairly well in focus. And, my nose is kind of 12 inches from this computer. This picture of Bill Clinton wearing a dress is several feet behind me, but yet it's still in focus. That is happening because the sensor in this webcam is a tiny little thing. And so it has the things that it photographs are going to have tremendous depth of field. Almost everything from right here to as far away as you can get from this lens will be in focus. Now,
but would that
hang on, let me just continue.
Okay.
So I've got over there, I've got a DSLR that has a very large sensor. It's got the sensor the size of a 35 millimeter imaging plane. And when I put a telephoto lens on that and I focus on Jaron's nose, things will be very out of focus behind him. So that's one type of distortion. If I were to zoom in on Jaron, it would make the wall look closer to him because I'm just basically magnifying a small image. So the thing to do to test what I'm talking about is get a zoom lens that can be very wide angle and sit in front of it and look at how your face looks at a particular size in the frame. Your nose is going to look like it's sticking out. Your head is going to look super round. It's a very distorted, like, ooh, that's a lousy picture of me. Then get far away from the camera and zoom in so your head is essentially the same size. But how does it look? Well, your head is going to look very flat. The relief between your nose and your ears, it's not going to look round and bulbous. It's going to look more flattened out. So when photographers want to take a picture, whether it's in a movie or a fashion photo shoot, they're going to select a particular focal length lens to get a desired look out of the image. And changing the focal length and the distance to the subject will have a lot of impact on how a lot of different things appear. And this is just do with lenses, optics, physics, photography, all kinds of distortions that can be introduced.
Yeah, I mean, the problem becomes for me is if I wanted to all of a sudden say today that, okay, now I believe we're on a globe, I could use the same kind of examples and just say, yeah, it's lenses, it's optics, it's why do we see too far? Oh, because it's refraction. So it's very easy to, and I'll call them excuses because they really are. What you're basically saying is with those pictures of Earth, that there's nothing we could show you that you wouldn't be able to.
No. Wait a minute. I will not allow words to be put in my mouth. What I'm saying is we don't know what distortions occurred. So if NASA put out an image of the Earth in the shape of an egg, everyone would say, oh, what the WTF, NASA, you're manipulating the image. I would not be at all surprised if the type of manipulation that is done to an image like this includes rectification to make the thing look round, because somebody decided if you show people the Earth and it looks distorted, they're going to think something weird. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying there's too much about this evidence that we do not know to be able to come to any conclusion from it. I'm offering explanations to these open-ended hypothetical questions that make sense.
So, Jason, things fall into three baskets. It works on a ball Earth and a flat Earth, or it doesn't matter because it doesn't prove anything. Works only on a ball Earth, works only on a flat Earth. And so what we're looking for today is something that works only on a ball Earth. We can show you things that only work on a flat Earth and work on both, but we have yet to find anything that only works on a ball Earth. So the formula for a ball 24,901 miles around is 8 inches per mile squared. A 6 foot tall man standing at the edge of calm water, not land, because water is going to lay flat. After a mile, it's 8 inches. After 3 miles, it's 6 feet. Okay, that's the formula. 3 times 3 times 8 divided by 12, 6 feet. So, according to mainstream science, a 6 foot tall person could his horizon on calm water would be 3 miles away. He shouldn't be able to see the water surface unless there was a big wave or something that was sticking up above the curvature. We have photos, videos of known positions, wind turbines or oil rigs that we can see. Now, there is compression where we're like, are we seeing the whole oil rig or not? That doesn't matter, because beyond the oil rigs, miles beyond it, we can see the surface of the water. Okay? We shouldn't be able to see the water even in front of I think the camera height, it was like 1.9 miles away, but we could see the oil rigs were 13 miles away, 15 miles away, whatever, and we could see water well beyond them. Now, the only explanation on the ball side is, well, it refracted up and it stopped right at your eye level. It stopped, didn't go higher. It just refracted up, and you're seeing something that's behind a physical curve. But we can see these. We can show these. We have many videos that will show you this. And we've done them personally. They're not just like a picture off the internet. What would you say to that?
I mean, again, it's difficult for me to evaluate this without seeing all of the parameters. I know when it comes to developing complex things or doing complex calculations, there are often times that when I'm talking about complex things, when you're building a computer network, or when I designed and built a stereoscopic 3D camera where I know this seems like it has nothing to do with what you're asking, but give me a second.
Hold on, Jaron, can you bring up the picture while he's talking, like the Black Swan, or what? Do you have one of those?
When you're dealing with complex things, sometimes you're sitting there looking at it saying, like, this makes no sense. There's no way this could be if this, or why is this not happening when it should be? And it sometimes takes a lot of effort to figure out where the disconnect is and what you're not understanding that causes the thing that you think should be one way to be another. And again, without evaluating every aspect of what you're saying, it's impossible for me to answer that, because I'm getting a general sense of what occurred. I mean, doesn't the ocean go up and down quite a bit? I mean, when I'm in it, I know there are waves that go up. My body bounces up and down. How much is that happening? And we're talking about 6 feet. I mean, I just don't know, because I can't really evaluate that. I mean, again, these are, for every question like that, we could say, well, how is it that people who have flown in the Concorde have observed the curvature of the Earth? And why is it if a ship goes sailing directly away from you, eventually you will lose sight of it? Is it not going over the horizon? So what are the answers to that?
All right. The first is the Concorde. They're looking out through a curved window, but we have yet to see a real, well, you look out through a curved window on the ground.
On a regular plane, don't you?
Well, planes. The other thing is, when we look, we can see the same distance in all directions, and that creates a flat circle. And in our mind programming will tell us that there's a curve there. Okay, but we can see too far. This is a long involved video, but basically we should not be able to see the water. Those pilings should be below the curve.
Correct. They should be falling behind the curve. So yeah, somebody can say, oh, well, this part here, I think you can see my mouse. This part here is actually distorted, or it's being risen up from behind the curve. All that aside, the fact is that the curvature of the Earth should be here. And as these go further and further off into the distance and get further and further away, they are supposed to fall behind the curvature. They don't. Now, to believe that what the globe is telling us is that all these things, these pictures, these images that we're seeing, all these have somehow magically, due to some sort of a super looming, have risen up to place themselves directly at the horizon line. And, we can go on from there, but I mean, this kind of gets into the same problem that we're having with boats. As boats go off into the distance, like you're talking about, they do get smaller. And as they get closer to this kind of line of obscurity here, sometimes they get distorted and you might only see the mast, or you might only see the top flag or whatever. But if you take a camera and zoom further in, you can then see the boat again. The problem is that we've been told over and over again that boats going off in the distance go behind some curve. And it's just not the case, because we're able to take a camera now that our optics are getting to the point where we're able to zoom in. And again, for all I know, back, 700 years ago, whatever it was, when they saw boats leave the shore and they headed off in the distance, I don't dispute that people at that time said, oh, that boat must have gone over the edge because we lost sight of it. Well, they didn't have the optics to zoom in to see what was actually going on. Today we do. Today we have optics to show us that boats never go over the curve. Now, it may be the case that, oh, well, they were lying before to us, that they were just using that as an example of why the Earth's a globe. And now they realize, well, actually, you're seeing too far. But the fact of the matter is, we're seeing, when you take their ball mathematics, that there's a problem, that the boat should be hidden. And we're able to see, for instance, there's a place, Canigou Mountain. I talk about it a lot. It's 175 miles away. And people have gotten images. And it's a really weird phenomenon. You can only see it when the sun sets behind it. When the sun sets behind this mountain, it is, creates a silhouette, and you're able to see the mountain peaks from 175 miles away. That mountain should be miles behind the curve, like, 2 miles behind the curve. You shouldn't be able to see the mountain again at all. Now, again, there's an explanation for that. The explanation is, it's being loomed up. It's refraction. You're seeing around bends. You're seeing around curves. So where I'm talking about excuses is, it's very easy if you just always have an answer, no matter what that answer entails. And for the globe, they get to use some things that they just get to use the word gravity, right? They say, well, gravity holds the waters to the...
I don't think gravity affects light, though.
No, I wouldn't think so either, but that's what they're saying. They're saying that the light bends...
Well, let me ask this, Jaron. So isn't it true that someone could get in a boat and go from New York through the Panama Canal, around the world, and back to New York? How can they do that if it's not a globe?
Sure.
Awesome question. Awesome question. Hold it. Let's just stay on this topic for a second. We'll get into circumnavigation in a second. Darren, can you pull up the picture? I got the Canigou video up.
Yes.
So, Jason, when the sun isn't lined up with this mountain, you can't see it, because the light, even during the brightest part of the day, the light reflecting off that mountain can't punch through the atmosphere and get to our eyes because it's too far away. It's just washed out and it looks like sky. Hold on. Only when the sun is lined up with it and is going beyond it do we see the outlook, the outline. And Jaron, how low is that supposed to be behind the curve from where that shot was taken?
This picture here, I think it's like 2,000 feet. The peak of it should be 2,000 feet behind the curvature of Earth.
Let me pause you, gentlemen, because I want you to imagine if I was doing, before they had television, this was the first implementation of stereoscopic 3D. They would do shadow puppet shows where something would shine from behind the screen, one color of light and another color of light, and the audience would put on the 3D glasses and they would see 3D projected on a screen. So imagine we had a cutout stencil of a mountain and a projector behind it, and you were sitting somewhere. If I put the projector above the mountain and shined it down, the shadow of it would land in one place on the screen. If I put the projector below the mountain and shined it up, the shadow would project higher up on the screen. There's a hell of a lot of moisture and all kinds of particles in the air in between wherever this camera was and that mountain was. And how do we know what we're seeing is not a shadowed silhouette projected onto air molecules, water vapor molecules, dust?
it's completely, you can see every bit of the mountain. You can see
No, I'm seeing a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional mountain.
what you're saying is
and it's a shadow. That's
Hold on.
I'm just saying it's an optical presentation.
So what I'm saying when I say making excuses, I just want to make sure that you understand what your excuse.
I object to the word excuse. I'm offering an explanation, and I'm not going to have everything that I say be dismissed as an excuse. I'm trying to offer a scientific explanation how a phenomenon like this could happen, because again,
you're able to make explanations like that. I mean, what you're saying is this mountain is actually on the other side. Think of the ball Earth. It's on the other side. And because the sun is behind it, it's projecting a shadow up to where we see it perfectly at the horizon line. That's really your explanation?
My explanation is that this is an inadequate experiment to arrive at proof. When we start talking about proof,
we weren't going to go for proof.
We're already losing. So we're talking about evidence. You guys have presented me with a piece of evidence and you're alleging that it represents X. And I'm saying I'm not convinced that it does, because I think there are other explanations that could explain how this is happening. And this is the situation that I run into in every flat earth conversation that I've had. Explanations are offered and often even presented as proof of something, which I do not believe stand up to scrutiny as proof. I think they are evidence, they are possible evidence, but I'm offering alternative explanations, alternative evidence that could also explain it. I might not have the full scientific thing down, but if we went there and we had physicists and optical scientists, and
what you're saying though, it would be impossible for us to ever show you an image.
No. Hold on. You're jumping to conclusions that I will not allow, Jaron. I have not said that it's impossible. I've said that is inadequate evidence.
Okay, hold on. So let me just explain what I'm saying. It would be impossible for us to ever show you any evidence of seeing something too far at this point, because your answer would be that it's being lifted up and shown to us in some sort of shadow format. So
no, we're going to end the interview soon if you change the things that I say. What I'm saying is what you're showing me is the sun behind something and a two-dimensional representation of it that somehow that's landed on an image sensor and created an image that I'm now looking at. And there are a lot of things in between that mountain and my eyeballs that are introducing artifacts, lenses,
of course,
image sensors, air particles, water molecules. There's a lot of stuff going on there. And to just look at an image and jump to a conclusion and say, this is the only conclusion and it's impossible for me to be convinced because you've shown me 2 or 3 examples, that's an unacceptable debate.
What I'm saying, we could show you an unlimited amount of examples, meaning we could show you the Eiffel Tower and say, we're seeing this from too far. And your answer would be, well, there's a lot of things in between us and the Eiffel Tower that are causing the light of the Eiffel Tower to be shined.
Is that your answer?
That is not my answer. That is something that Jaron just said, a hypothetical scenario that I haven't seen. You know, why is it when I look at an image of the Eiffel Tower on Google Earth, it looks like it's planted on the floor? Is the Eiffel Tower flat? No, it's because the satellite is so far away that lots of optical distortions get introduced. And so the thing looks totally flat. And I mean, again, what you're demonstrating right here, Jaron, is your propensity to draw conclusions about what I will do based on one thing that I've said. And frankly, it doesn't give me a lot of confidence in your conclusion drawing ability. It makes me think that you jump to conclusions because I did not say that.
It maybe does. And what I'm actually jumping to the conclusion of is, well, we shouldn't be showing any more evidence of seeing things too far, because at this point, I understand that.
Yeah, you're not getting what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess I don't get it, because I feel like you would never say, oh, that's interesting, we are seeing too far. You would say, oh, there's an explanation for that. The explanation is that the atmosphere is in between us and that the items are lifted up.
The explanation is exact. I didn't say the items were lifted up. You can imagine if I had a flashlight.
They're lifting up.
I was standing behind a screen. You're looking at a silhouette. A silhouette is a shadow. It's not the mountain. You're not touching the silhouette. It's a very distant shadow image of something. So how are we seeing that? Well, light is hitting the retina of your eye if you're standing right there looking at it. How is that light reaching you? Light bends when it hits water. Water vapor is in the air over the ocean. So there is more to this phenomenon than just an image on the screen and we draw a conclusion. I'm sorry if what I'm saying is upsetting you or disagreeing with your conclusions.
It shouldn't upset anybody.
Yeah.
And I think that it would be ludicrous to think that after only 50 minutes of discussing the topic that you would be changing your complete worldview when we've only shown you a limited amount of evidence. And there's
True.
so much to discuss on this topic that it would be a good idea to move on from the seeing too far, even though that's my favorite.
Because I've only got another 10 minutes. So let's go to the next thing.
As I really do appreciate your knowledge of cameras and optics and stuff. And so I would love to go back to the whole solar eclipse idea and just get your take, because I certainly can't explain it. Now, if the moon is in front of the sun, and obviously this doesn't prove the earth is flat, this is just more along the lines of we were lied to by NASA and the heliocentric model. And, you know, in a court of law, a lot of times we like to look at the credibility of a witness. And so I'm questioning the credibility of NASA. I like, if someone is proven to lie to me, then I take that into my consideration. So if we are looking at a solar eclipse and multiple astronomers in different areas during an eclipse, they don't detect the moon coming in and they just see that bite coming out of the sun, how would you explain that? And then also, if the sun is an infinite light source, then the shadow of the moon should be the exact size of the moon itself. And what we see is that the shadow on the earth does not reflect what they say the size of the moon is. So I'm just curious to know what your immediate response is to that. And of course, it would require a lot more contemplation and looking into it on your end after this.
Yeah, and again, I mean, it goes into just a litany of areas that I have no expertise in. But I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is that, you know, I'm crushing your head thing. I mean, my thumb is definitely smaller even than the area on screen that Dave's face is taking up. But when I do this, he's completely covered. So what's the distance of the moon to the observer? The distance of the moon to the sun? I mean, I don't know. There's too many factors there that I can't comment on. I don't have an explanation for how that works.
Okay, well, what about the solar eclipse and not seeing the moon? What about, how would you respond to the moon not approaching the sun and we only see it like cutting out of it? I mean, that just blows my mind, because I certainly don't know how to explain it.
If it's so big and so close to you that when it's here, you don't see it, and when it's here, it appears to be immediately there, that could, I mean, I don't know. Again, I haven't studied eclipses. I'm not an astronomer. This is way outside my area of expertise.
Let's talk about circumnavigation, because you asked, how can you go to California, travel dead reckon west 270 degrees and hit Japan and China and end up back in New York? Okay. Darren, I'm going to share my app, if that's all right.
Sure.
So circumnavigation, on the flat Earth, I'm going to turn on the compass here. The North Pole is the magnetic north, and south is every direction away from north. Okay, so that is south, that is south, that is south, and that is south. If I leave from California and I go west, let's say I leave from Mexico, I follow this yellow line, and I am heading 270 degrees because my compass north needle is pointing towards the north. I'm still going 270 degrees, and look, I'm back to where I started from. I can do the same thing east. But if I want to go...
Wait. What if you make a left? When do you hit the edge? And how come you don't fall off? And how come no one's done that in thousands of years of driving around in boats?
So because there is no edge to the earth that we know of, but hold tight. Let me just finish so east and west are circles on a flat earth and on a globe earth. There's no difference what I'm telling you on a globe earth. People circumnavigate all the time. You can also go from Mexico, head north over Alaska, keep going straight. You're heading south, and now you're in the Far East, and you went in a straight line. You went north and south. Or you can go west. What nobody has ever done is gone south and then shown up over here, or gone south over here and shown up in Australia. Nobody's ever done it. If you look up the world record for south-north circumnavigation, they literally went down here to Antarctica. They turned around, went like over here, then they went to the north, and they came back, and they called that circumnavigation. Okay, that's got to make you scratch your head.
I just don't understand why somebody who wanted to test this couldn't get in a boat and keep going until they hit the edge.
Because the edge, so you understand, is the shoreline of the world ocean. And that shoreline is the shore of Antarctica. Okay. And then no one's allowed. No, in 1957 they made the Antarctic Treaty. All the countries that were at war and everything, they all signed on, protect the penguins. Nobody, no corporation, nobody can independently explore Antarctica. And even if they let you, where are you going to go? Where are you going to get food and fuel? Where are you going to navigate? GPS doesn't work down there. Compasses don't work.
Why does GPS not work there?
Because there's no GPS down there. GPS is a land-based thing. It's not from satellites. There's no GPS between California and Hawaii. There's no GPS over the center of the Amazon jungle. There's no GPS in the southern oceans. Okay.
Have you tested that? Who's come to that determination? I've used GPS in some pretty remote places.
Yeah, there is some GPS in some places wherever they can have a landmass. There's also NASA has thousands of balloons in the air at all times carrying satellites. They don't advertise that.
Have you seen those?
Yes,
they fall down sometimes.
Yeah, they've had disasters. The one just crashed a couple weeks ago in the Congo. And there's
NASA balloon,
South America,
a Satelloon. So Jaron, can you pull up a picture?
Well, supposedly there's over 50,000 balloons above our head at any time, according to NASA officials. Now,
why wouldn't NASA publicize that? Why wouldn't they be talking about that huge program? That's a speculation. Maybe it's top secret.
I've just never heard of it before. Right now, I've never seen it.
Yeah. So Jaron, can you pull up a picture? You have one?
Yeah. We also had the guest on Crow 777 radio who explained that the Sirius radio, they always say, oh, satellite this, satellite that. And they're injecting this word into the public mind. But that's all ground-based, admittedly ground-based technology as well. So that's just an example of them using one word to help people continuously believe in this certain idea when really it's not as described.
Right. And I don't really know I just searched NASA balloons. I mean, it's a very easy search. They've got a whole entire balloon program.
But aren't these weather balloons? I mean, yeah, they use balloons, but
satellites up to 8,000
they're connected to what we see as satellites. And we don't even see any satellites from space. All we get is CGI. And I would love to see a picture of a real satellite, this amazing technology that's doing all these great things. Why can't we see a picture of it, like a real picture? I'm pretty sure
you can see the International Space Station in the sky. It looks like a dot.
Yes. You can see what they call the International Space Station. And even though it does look very similar to what they say it looks like, I maintain that there are no humans on it, and it's not like the massive space station that they say it is. But it does look like that. A lot of people think that that we're not aware of that, but where there's so many amateur astronomers that do detect the ISS, but all we know is that it's a light in the sky. We can't. I mean, I don't know. We could get into the ISS. I know we're running out of time. Also, David, I was curious if you wanted to show the sun fade out that you did with your personal. I think it's good to show our personal observations, and the sun fade out that you did with your drone was absolutely incredible. I would love Jason to see that.
I can pull it up in a second for sure.
Okay.
I had a good point, but it's gone.
I'm sorry, David.
Well, the other thing about circumnavigation, because I would agree with you that it should be quite easy for someone just to go down south and sail around and prove this one way or the other. The problem is that part of the Antarctic Treaty is that nobody who goes below 60 degrees south is allowed to carry any fuel on board. So I could show you the exact place where it says it. It's an absolute law. Yeah, it's very weird, and it should call into question why would that be? Because all it allows you to do is, if you are a boat, you can pretty much go from any of the land. Dave, if you bring up your app again, just one more time, just to show that you can basically leave South America, you can leave South Africa, you can leave Australia, and you basically have enough fuel to go to the edge of Antarctica and come right back. That's essentially what the most you can do. So if somebody said, Jaron, why don't you go down and explore Antarctica? If I got a boat, a big yacht, whatever kind of icebreaker yacht.
Life-threatening, of course.
Yeah, that too, right? I mean, so this is a problem, is that there's a lot of issues. It's not as easy as people think. Also, people say, well, why don't you go down there and explore Antarctica? Well, you can't go. You have to have permission. You have to get EPA permits and everything, and they turn down a lot of people who try and go unless you're part of the big show. I mean, my biggest thing is when I first heard from my wife that she thought, is there a possibility that the earth could be flat? And I yelled at her and I said, no, you're absolutely crazy. I did. And I said, how do planes go around it? I mean, come on. I mean, she's flown to the east and gone to Germany. I've flown to the west and gone to the Philippines. I said, there's no possible way. And it wasn't until weeks later when I saw that map, when I was actually doing what everybody tries to do, right, which is disprove the flat earth. And I saw this map and I started realizing, oh, shit, people could just fly around one direction or the other. So then I said, wait a second, there's an inherent flaw in this map we're looking at right now. And that is that this map does not allow anybody to circumnavigate north-south. It only allows east-west. So I said, okay, all I need to do is go look up all the times, which if you think about it, billions of people, probably, maybe hundreds of millions, have circumnavigated east-west, correct? I mean, as far as, well,
I've done it.
Yeah, you've flown around the world, right? Jason, have you ever?
Yes. I don't know what direction the plane is going.
Right. Okay. So what I'm saying is we've all gone east-west, but none of us have gone north-south. So then I looked up thinking, well, there must be tons of people who have done it. And you find only 2 or 3 instances in history where supposed people have crossed Antarctica. It took them 4 years. It's this big production. And then one of the guys is, and I've talked about this many times on my channel, Sir Ranulph Fiennes, but he's basically an actor. He's involved with the Queen. He's the 3rd Baron of something or other. He's the Queen's cousin. And he's like considered the greatest explorer of all time. Well, he's been found in court to be faking incidents on these trips. So actual court cases where he basically told some lady, hey, we're going to be going through Antarctica. We need to pretend like we fell down this crevice. She ended up getting hurt and sued him because she says he's out there faking. Most of what they did was faked for TV. So it's just one of those stories. He's supposedly the guy that did it. If you look it up, there's just nobody else that's done it. And then, like I said, or like Dave brought up, in 2016, I think, or late 2015, I saw some report that there was going to be some plane that was going to be trying to make the record for the quickest north-south circumnavigation by a single pilot. And they said, oh, it's strapped with this GPS tracker called Spider Links or something. I said, okay, great. I'll track this guy. I want to watch what he does. And it was going to be a multiple-day event, right? Mm-hmm. But he left North Carolina, went down to, Dave, if you can kind of draw it on the map there a little bit with your mouth, it might help. So he left North Carolina, went down to Brazil, and then from Brazil was supposed to fly across Antarctica and come out over at Australia or New Zealand. But he went to 90 degree, turned around and went back to Brazil, and then went over to New Zealand across the water, then went up to the North Pole, came back to North Carolina, and they gave him the record for circumnavigation. He has the fastest record for north-south circumnavigation. To me, right there, that was the biggest thing I'd ever seen, because I said, hold on a second, the guy didn't cross Antarctica. And when you ask them, because people asked him, hey, what happened? Why didn't you cross Antarctica? He said he got too close to where he thought 90 degrees was, and the weather was horrendous, and his dial stopped working, his compass and things like that. So he had to turn around and go back. So then he went in a completely way that it wouldn't be circumnavigation. And that's where I said, okay, there's a problem here. Why would we ever call that circumnavigation? Not to mention there's a lot of other problems with the fact that there's no cruises in the Southern Hemisphere that go from, you would think there'd be cruises that would go from like Australia to South America, correct? Now people say, but people say, oh, well, it's too much water and it's too dangerous because there's no places for them to go if there's an emergency. But there's a lot of problems with the globe model being, that should be on the bottom of the ball Earth. It should be closer distances than it really is if you look at that.
Well, let me interrupt you because I have to go, but I want to ask this one final question. What would be the purpose? Why would they care if we think the Earth is a globe or flat? What's the difference?
Who wants to take it? Want me to do it?
Take it away, Dave. Tell me.
Good, Dave.
Because, Jason, if they can convince you that nothing exploded and then it became everything, and then lightning struck and created an amoeba that turned into a mutant fish, that turned into a monkey, that turned into a human, and you live on a spinning ball flying through infinite space where there's other trillions of other ones, and you're a random speck, rather than you are the center of creation, that we are special, that we are created. This place was created for us. Mutations created our eyes that communicate with our brains to let us, do all the stuff that we do. That's insanity. Okay. So if they can convince you of that, they can convince you that a scary little bug will kill you if you get within 6 feet of somebody. Okay. They can convince you of all of this other stuff. If they keep you in fear, feeling insignificant, then they can control you. And this is all about control. We could agree on that. They want to control us. Jason, if you knew that there was more land out there, that there was other continents out there, that there was no shortage of supplies, if you knew that there's no such thing as an asteroid coming in and destroying us, if you knew that nuclear bombs didn't exist, if you knew all of these things, you wouldn't be in fear and you wouldn't give up your rights. You wouldn't give up your God-given, senses and trade them in for nonsense. I mean, the stuff they feed us is nonsense. believing in NASA, the only way someone can believe in NASA is because they refuse to look. I'm not saying you refuse to look. You just haven't looked deep enough yet. If you look on the space station and catch them hanging by wires, without a doubt, that tells you they're faking the space station. Then you can unwind it all from there. Okay. So I became a flat earther or a true earther or a globe denier before I knew that NASA was fake. Okay. 100% fake. The purpose of NASA is to make us think we could live on another ball. They put a fence over us, the Van Allen radiation belts, and they put a fence around us, the Antarctic Treaty, and they told us there's nothing else out there. It's like the Truman Show. That's it. Everything's been discovered. There's no need to go looking any further.
Yeah. And you put people into a box and you limit their ability to understand the nature of reality. It is so much easier to control them and fool them of anything. And also, before you go, I just would love it if you looked into emergency landings. They don't make any sense in the globe model, but if you look, it's just perfect.
Emergency
on the
landings
model.
of what? Of
Commercial airlines, and then also the jet stream. You know, I always thought it was really weird that the jet stream goes like that on the heliocentric model, but if you put it on this flat Earth model, it's just a perfect circle around. And also, I would look into the seasons and why. And how those work and how it's explained by now. I mean, I wish I could have gotten you alone, Jason. Would be so much fun. But you know what?
This show just totally changed direction.
No, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. But this has been so great. I just want to thank you for all of this because there's so much to go into, and I just love this conversation, and I love your open mind and your willingness to talk about this.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you. I appreciate it.
This is the flight route from Australia to Santiago, Chile. This is the way they go, and this is what that same flight route looks on a flat Earth, pretty much a straight line.
Yeah, like women going into labor and they need to land immediately, and why would they go out of the way? And then
there's so many emergency landings where they landed in places that were nowhere in line with the globe. But if you look at the flight on a flat Earth, that they landed in Alaska because Alaska was the closest piece of land in line with them, and the globe has them out here somewhere.
Yeah, if you look at Japan on that map right there and say that person's flying to California, then Alaska makes sense as an emergency landing. If you look at the globe, it really doesn't. You know, somewhere in Hawaii might be better, or there's a lot of examples of these emergency flights or emergency landings. Yeah, that's important. But I think, like you said, the way that the sun and moon work on a flat Earth makes a lot more sense. I mean, I don't know if you know the globe model that they give us, but they tell us that the sun is further away during our winter. Further away during our summer. There's all these little things that just make zero sense when you start thinking about it. Now, again, do they have answers? Yes, they're able to. Well, it's actually the reason that it's summer is not because the sun is closer, but because it's angled. I mean, they've got an answer for everything, but a lot of it just doesn't make sense. That's what got a lot of us here. And I agree with what you said at the beginning, that sometimes when things start not making sense and somebody provides a better answer for you, that's why I start to lean in that direction. Again, I just don't trust anything NASA puts out. Again, a big step for me was realizing that we didn't go to the moon. That's huge, because from there you can really start to ask a lot of questions as to why they've perpetrated that for so long. What was so important about going to the moon? Well, one of the things was the blue marble image that came in 1972 that was used all the way up until 2015. You can find Obama admitted that was the second picture ever of the Earth was taken in 2015. The first was taken in 1972. So, I mean, from that time to that time, there's nobody else who ever took a photo of the Earth. So,
well, I mean, it's an intriguing topic for sure. I think we're going to have to continue to discuss it in the future. But I want to thank you guys for inviting me on the show. I have to say, Jaron, you're doing a great job with StreamYard here. This is the best produced StreamYard show that I've ever seen.
It's working.
We were going to take some calls, but if you have to go.
Yeah, I really got to run, guys. I'm sorry. I only had an hour, and we're about an hour and 10. But let's do it again sometime, and maybe take the calls, continue the show, store up the questions, and then we can revisit in the future.
Before you go, last question.
Yeah.
Now, the photos, we can make we can make excuses and all not pointing my finger at you. We can make alternative explanations. So that falls into the works on both, doesn't work on either, whatever. It's not proof. What's your number one proof that we live on a globe? What's the number one thing that tells you we live on a globe?
I don't know that I necessarily have something that I consider proof or evidence. It's, this is
What's the number one thing that makes you think we believe on a globe?
always been taught that. Always been taught that, and haven't heard a compelling enough counter explanation to cause me to disbelieve it.
Okay, so you were told, and you haven't heard a better explanation yet.
Yes, and there are things that I observe elsewhere, centrifugal force. A lot of people who I've spoken about this topic with say, how could we be hurtling through space and yet you don't feel like you're moving? Well, when I'm in an airplane, I don't feel like I'm moving. I'm standing still on something
Take the outside of the airplane off and double the speed, and then tell me if you feel like you're moving.
Right, but we've got an atmosphere that's covering us and all that.
We're turning with the Earth, right? Did you know at 40,000 feet, our atmosphere is outrunning the spin of the Earth? The Earth is spinning this way, and at 40,000 feet, the atmosphere is outrunning it. You'd think it would lag behind or maybe spin with it. It's outrunning it.
Let's not make Jason feel like he's being held hostage.
Yeah.
No, it's just hard for me to answer these questions. I don't have a good explanation for that. The photographic stuff I can answer with personal knowledge. The rest of this stuff, I'm just guessing. So I really am not the best person to ask. But
we're just trying to figure it out also.
Yeah. Get someone from NASA. Get a scientist. Are there any high-level scientists who say, hey, you're right?
We've approached them all, and they say they will never talk to a flat earther because they can't.
I wish they would just end it. Come and talk to us.
Yeah.
We've been wanting for a lot of years. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate the time, you guys, and thanks for having me on, and we'll speak again soon.
Thanks, Jason. See ya.
Thank you so
Take
much.
care.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
So just one thing I want to say, people in the chat, I don't think Jason is a shill.
Is that what we're saying? I've been looking.
Is super conservative, and doesn't like to jump to conclusions. I think his answers were reaching, but he doesn't. That's the way he works. Jaron, did you see it differently?
I was going to ask him, but I didn't. I should have. It was the last second. You think he's an atheist?
I don't know. That's good. That would have been a good question.
It doesn't matter. It's about looking at the evidence and
were
any of us convinced after an hour? None of us were. I mean, I would be disappointed if someone was
Let's take some
totally
calls.
convinced after only an hour.
Let's take some calls. I'll put up the if anybody wants to jump on, come on camera.
Yeah.
And Karen said he's not
if you don't have anything constructive to say, don't say anything at all. All right.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate that he came on, and I knew that it was going to be tough. Karen B says he's not ready.
It should be tough. It should be tough. And we should be open to having these kinds of conversations with people that are super, super critical. It only helps us try to comprehend our point of view and our ability to explain our point of view to others. I think this is fantastic. I can't wait for Saturday for my debate. That's going to be very challenging for me.
McToon, right?
Huh?
Are you debating McToon?
Well, when James contacted me, he said he thought he was going to bring McToon on. I need to clarify for sure if that's going to be my friendly opponent. Yeah. But no matter who it is, it doesn't matter because I know who I am. I know where I stand. And I don't want to trigger you guys, but I'm always open to being proven wrong. I'm still waiting for someone to prove to me that it's a globe and that I am wrong. And it hasn't happened yet, but I'm letting myself be open to the possibility. It's been a whole entire year and it hasn't happened yet. And I really wish that we could get Neil deGrasse or whoever to come on and talk to us. But the fact that they won't is also very telling.
Right. And when I asked him what's his proof, the proof he has is that's what he was told.
Right.
That's what he was told.
What we realized right at the beginning, this opening line was basically that, right? That he believes it. So again, when you tell him we don't feel like we're spinning, of course, with a globe model that's been around as long as it has, there is an answer for everything. There is. That's how you build a great deception. I mean, you can't tell a good lie unless you have all your bases covered. Right. So they have equipped the globe with answers for everything. I mean, the answers are ridiculous. And in his case, even more when you're talking about that mountain that we see is not actually there. It's somehow a perfect silhouette. I mean, I wanted to ask him, and if you really think about it, I mean, picture somebody on the other side of some sort of a curved surface. And what he's saying is if you shine a light on that person, that the silhouette would appear. It's not a shadow. It's a silhouette.
So that is just his mind struggling for an explanation not to face flat Earth reality, in my opinion.
Right. And so when I see people who make excuses like that, it's not an open mind to where what I thought, and we had this with Charlie Robinson. Charlie Robinson came on, and when we made points, he would say, "That's interesting. I got to look into that." Somebody who's ready to tear down anything by just basically making something up. And that's why I was saying it's just excuses, because really we could show him, here's the Himalayas from 2,000 miles. And he would say, well, but the sun is casting a
atmosphere.
Right. There's a lot of things between me and the camera. We're like, yeah, no shit. There's a lot of things between you and the camera. We know that. But if we can just use that as an excuse, and this is the problem with the globe for me, is that too many of the excuses can just be thrown out there at will. Why do we see the buildings, across Lake Michigan?
He's still a 9/11 plane believer.
I would have loved his response to the sun fade out, because I think, one, it's so beautiful, and two,
I
so
was pulling it up,
compelling.
but then we got sidetracked.
Yeah, we need to be open to having a part 2 with him, and keep that door open and not.
Well, I mean, it's.
I don't know.
Sharon was looking mighty frustrated. Anybody call in, guys?
Yeah, we got one person, but I bet you, I don't know. There's a
second.
Yeah, I think he has some background in some entertainment industry stuff. Just saying, just throwing it out there.
The people are saying there's lots of connections, but you know what? I don't like calling anybody anything. I think he's doing good work in New York City, and let him keep doing it.
Sure. Yeah. Real quick, the super chats. McSizzle says, love y'all. Keep crushing. Thank you very much. Ariel B sent one. Thank you. McSizzle says, please get this to Rose. I'm looking forward to her smackdown of Buffoon McToon. So, Rose, I will send you that super chat after. Commercial Sound and Video says, Jason, thank you. Please come back again. Like Rose said, it's a lot for a quick discussion. Yeah, that's the problem with this discussion. But of air and sea, as a Navy sailor who circled the Earth, I can tell you there is no GPS throughout most of the world's oceans. Land cell reception also proves it. And Red Bad said, should have started with the Antarctic Treaty and the flight paths. LOL. Yeah, I got him a little bit further there, I think, as well. All right, Evan Gamble, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jaron. I'm glad I got to you. So I sent you an email this morning, but I wanted to give you a call, too. I watched the Monday Night Raw show, but not live. And so I had a planned home birth a couple years ago, and we're pregnant again, planning on another one. Our first birth, we did end up at the hospital. And that's kind of a long story, and I don't want to get into it right now. But in regards to the vitamin K shot, so there's like a whole, you were talking about, like a whole packet of shit to consent to, whether it's the eye drops, the, this and that. And you pretty much made your way through all those. You're still confused about the vitamin K. And that's the one that got me too. And when I was in that moment, it's the only thing that I consented to of all those options. And the first thing I want to say about is if something is seriously dangerous for your baby, there's so much shit they don't let you opt out of. If you're in the hospital situation, they're not going to let your baby come to harm. So if they're giving you an option, there's some sort of reason for that option. And you pretty much always shouldn't consent, because all those optional screenings and things, they just start to build profiles. I mean, you guys are the type of people I could have this conversation with, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now. Vitamin K, my midwife gives an oral. After our birth, our baby was in the NICU for 7 days, and we couldn't get the oral into the NICU because they're very strict about everything there. And I opted out of the vitamin K the first day. Then I did some quick research, and it said something like 81 times more likely that your baby's going to get a brain hemorrhage before the age of 5. And I was like, what? Kind of freaked me out. And so I just said, okay, go ahead and have the vitamin K shot. Well, later on, I was able to do that research. And there's only been one study, garbage study. It turns out that the differences in percentages break down to 0.000. There's 5 zeros and a 1. You have the shot, and then 4 zeros and 8 1 if you don't have the shot. It's negligibly the real answer. But they can use those numbers to create things that say 81 times more likely, right? If you're twice likely to win the lottery, are you still very likely? And they're like, no, you're not. And so it's all just deception. And really, like, I started the CDC. I started calling them the Center for Deception and Control, because that is their primary job. It's what they do all the time. And right as this crap shot up, I already knew the CDC and the WHO were kind of seeing their colors now, but they're kind of like, they were kind of like NASA in the general mindset of, all these government agencies are corrupt. We see all the corruption everywhere, but NASA is this great benign space exploration. The CDC is this great health organization, so they kind of have a little bit of this immunity to the scrutiny of that other like government agencies, or I guess the CDC is not technically a government agency, but large consulting bodies that inform policy like that. They're all just so corrupt, And so my baby is fine. In my research, I found that that really, at its best, the vitamin K shot just does nothing. It's a desensitization thing. There's a bunch of ingredients in it that you don't necessarily want. There are where babies have been injured in it with it. Like I said, the research to show its benefits is like not there. The one thing you won't see the CDC do a study on is the vitamin K shot weighed with also breastfeeding and non-breastfeeding, because when you look at other studies that study breastfeeding, the brain hemorrhaging goes way, 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 way down below all of that with breastfed babies compared to formula fed. So there's so many factors involved. Just go with your gut. It's hard to do.
People are saying it's hard to hear Jaron in the chat.
It's hard to hear you, but we'll let you go. I appreciate you calling in, and I'd like to do a show maybe on D Live or something where we can talk about some of this stuff a little bit more. But I agree with you, and that is our current stance. But appreciate you calling in.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Anybody wants to talk about Jason and things we could have said, anything about the show would be awesome.
I don't trust this one. Is this really Rob Skiba? Going once, going twice. Nice try. All right, let's go with Waldis. Waldis. I don't know. How do you say that?
Well, it's called Valdez in German.
I got you, Waldis. What's up? Thanks for calling.
Yeah, well, I'm very surprised to be on the show. But yeah, thank you for calling. My idea was like to kind of give a small feedback how you interact with a globe earther, because Jaron is very calm and very structured, I would say. And
maybe usually, but today he almost left the show because of things I was saying. So I was like, all right, I got to be quiet. I always try and give people, the thing is, it's just like with anything else, right? You really have to open the door. Something I've learned a lot more recently in the last couple of years than I knew at the beginning of this is that I don't think this truth is for everyone. You have to have an open mind, whether it's God calling you, whether it's a spiritual thing. It's very easy to be deceived in this world. It's just like what Dave Weiss talks about. It's very easy just to do exactly what he's doing, which is say, I believe we live on a globe because I was taught it and it makes sense. And that's what we've all thought. It doesn't make sense. The idea of anybody saying, I think we live on a globe and it makes sense is ridiculous. To think that you're flying 1.1 million miles per hour through endless space and there's all these planets and galaxies and there's a sextillion stars, and that the stars that we see at night are 1 trillion miles away or 25 trillion, that's ridiculous.
No, I'm totally on board with you with the whole flat Earth thing. But I think, I'm sorry, my accent in German accent, but yeah. I just think and this guy was kind of an important figure in the whole public discussion. So he is, in my point of view, really big stepstone in the whole truth-seeking community, and it's very important to convince him. I'm just for a show, just like a note for the show you did or interview, you probably should have a small strategy and key talking points made out before the discussion, because you three had different speeds in your discussion and your questioning, and sometimes you were like with your arguments, because of course I watched your show like for 5 years and I know all the arguments, but you guys should have a strategy what we're gonna do if he asks that and what's gonna be the response, because sometimes it was like very difficult I also know his point of view, and it's very difficult. Like, you brought so many topics up. It was difficult for him, like, even to focus on something. So that's my note for the show. Just for you.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks for calling in. We got more calls, so I'll let you.
I think the ISS footage of the holding on to the string that isn't there and then seeing the guy go by behind, that would have been really cool, because if you think about it, the ISS is a group effort, and so that shows not just the deception of our country, but that all of them are, because some people are like, okay, well, you caught NASA in a lie, but what about all these other countries that did that? So that was, and also just the hair, like the hair going straight up and then showing the vomit rocket where it's just flowing and like how it should normally be.
You have to take the time. He has to take the time to look at that
I don't
stuff.
think any of those would have helped today, because and I could be wrong, and you probably did a much better job of handling. What I noticed right away was that what I pictured is somebody who has a channel that is about truth, but he's already turned his mind against flat Earth. He came here to basically be the guy that was just going to say it was ridiculous no matter what. He certainly, the last thing he wanted was to leave having any inkling to any of his fans or to anybody that he is kind of considering the Earth could be flat. That was the last thing that he wanted.
He did a couple of things. He was going, when I showed him the flight plans, and when you talk about the ISS, if we had time, I think that the analogy of how it goes from, the size of a football field to a dot at 5 miles, an airplane, how can we see the ISS 50 times higher?
Telescopic lenses.
Right. No, without a lens, you can see it with your naked eye. But I don't know. I think that's a great argument. Don't know if it would have worked on him.
Yeah, I think I used to feel a lot more interested in, I don't know, getting people to see my point of view, and I guess I don't feel that way anymore. Like, nobody needs to believe the Earth is flat if they don't want to. I'm not going to push it on them. I will open the door and say, hey, here's some things, you can look at them.
Right. I saw you threw in the towel at one point there.
Well, but yeah, because it's very easy. We've talked about it before. Baller Dave, how easy is it to be Baller Dave?
So easy.
Right. So, I could make a channel and I could go live every day and I could just talk about the Mars rover and how beautiful the pictures are. And look at this exoplanet we found yesterday. And this is the sun. It goes around HX374b. It's this big. It's made of these things. The planet has this atmosphere. It's so easy. It's so easy. So for him to come here and just basically say, well, no, and his proof was because I was taught it. That was his proof. That was his proof that he lives in the globe. So
next,
hi.
Oh, hi.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Thank you for your show. Great.
Awesome. I love your nice sunroof there. Looks very nice.
Isn't it nice? So many plants grow there. It's awesome. Yeah. I just want to tell you thanks for all the work you do, because I live on a flat earth since many years and I actually don't talk to anybody anymore because it's just sometimes ridiculous, I do talk about it very scarcely, but now I had to look into because of Jason. I know him from many years already from his, I followed him for a while when he was with George Webb. And now I follow actually his Bishop Gators. I don't know if you are aware of that. That's
Larry
quite
Gators.
interesting.
Yeah.
And I just want to say he was then quiet in the end. I kind of liked it because I never saw him that way before. So that was really cool, because the evidence is, when you really let it go into your brain and into your heart. I found God by researching the flat earth, I must say. And I got baptized 3 weeks ago. And that had to do with the flat earth, I must say. I would have, because I understood, that's what they're doing in the background. They're taking God out of the equation, like with a lot of things they're doing. But with the flat earth, it's, I think, the biggest lie to me in my life. So, yeah, I think it's great. And I have proofs myself when I fly in a plane, like I flew from San Francisco to Reykjavik, and it was a straight line. That thing didn't dip, nothing. So, and I looked, because it was a day flight. Usually at night you don't see it, yeah. But it was a day, and it was like, wow, it's flat. The whole line was flat. So anyway, I'm a real flat earther you caught here. The German guy before was a bit like, that's German. I'm from Austria. So anyway, if you have questions, Jason, I hope you made him start thinking about it, because he was kind of empty in the end. No, he was like,
yeah, I noticed he started thinking when
Yeah.
we were rapid firing some things at him. So
yeah, it worked in him.
you know what? The seed's planted. He can deny it as long as he wants, but when he takes the time to look. And my favorite quote in the world, besides the only thing to fear is fear itself, is belief is the enemy of knowing, from Crow. Right?
Yeah,
because belief is easy. Well, I believe, I was told, I believe.
Yeah.
But if you want to know, I've been trying to know for 5 years, and I'm still looking for more information, but I know it's not a ball.
Yeah, because ever since I changed from spinning to flat and calm, and
Better.
my life changed. It was a life changer, I must say. And I think this is what they do not want. They want our brains spinning and being involved all the time in something. And all of a sudden, it becomes very calm, very peaceful. It is really, it changed my life, I tell you.
There you go.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I wanted to then maybe do even a show, but are you doing it? And it's great. And I know Iru from Iru. His woman is a very dear friend of mine, and I actually brought them together because I told her about flat Earth, and then we went to a thing in Bristol.
Do you live near Linda?
No, but she was already visiting me. She's in Switzerland right now with Iru. Iru is there, I think, visiting right now.
I am looking forward to what is your name?
My name is Renate.
The Renata Linda show.
Yes.
When is that?
I'll watch it. I am open.
I'm going to subscribe. Send us a link to your channel. We'll subscribe right now.
Yes, I only have 2 songs there, and they have nothing to do with flat Earth. But I might do a song about flat Earth as well.
Oh, right. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So great. Thanks a lot. And
thank you.
Hopefully he comes back, and because he will do research. I'm sure he will look now like, oh my God, these people told me something I don't know about. So you will see, and it would be great because he has a lot of following, and yeah, people need to wake up to this lie, really. So thank you, and bye-bye. Have a good day, and see ya.
Appreciate you calling in.
Bye.
Dave, I do kind of see what you were saying too about at the beginning. You were saying, do I really want Jason looking at, because sometimes I have that same feeling, like, there's certain truthers out there that do a great job at what they're doing. And I think as much as I would like to have them come out, like, let's say, the Dollar Vigilante, right? Jeff Berwick. Once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, he throws in the jab that we never went to the moon and that the globe is probably a lie, right? But he doesn't come out every day and say, oh, the earth is flat, I'm a flat earth researcher, and I think sometimes that's almost better because he does great work. He's reaching a ton of people and exposing so many other lies.
Who's this we're talking about? Who?
Dollar Vigilante.
Oh,
Jeff
okay.
Berwick.
Yeah. No, he's doing his thing, but everyone that's in flat Earth knows that he knows the Earth is flat. The other people just don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, and a lot of people just stopped really mentioning it, like Michael Tellinger I talked about, or these guys that have huge audiences. I'm sure Jason Goodman makes good money doing what he does. It's maybe not in his best interest, unfortunately, to go down this path, which it's not. I don't know. David Harris, welcome to the show.
Hey, how we doing? Can you guys hear me okay?
Nice studio.
Hey, I love it.
Excellent.
Love that
Great. God bless it. Now we all sound like amateurs.
Well, I'm down in my studio, my recording studio. That's probably why it sounds better.
Sounds great.
Just real quick, love what you guys do.
Thank you.
I got started back in 2015. I was a Powerland guy, if you can figure that one out.
We all were.
David Weiss, I love your app.
Thank you.
The only thing I have is on Apple TV, it doesn't show videos.
Yeah, well, like we couldn't get it to do that. So, you know, if you have Apple TV, why don't you just mirror your phone onto the TV?
Well, see, what I like to do is have my TV on with that app going, and I use it as my clock.
Yeah, I do that too. That's nice.
And I've gifted it to some people, but they can't, and they've only got an Apple TV, and they don't see the videos.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, but the Apple TV doesn't allow the videos. Like, there's no way to access the videos.
Well, but you can get YouTube on your Apple TV.
I know you can, but I'll have to do it again. But for I don't think it can be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be my only criticism. Like, if I could just get that, and people can just walk in and go, "Oh, what's that?" and just go.
But if you have your iPhone and just mirror it up on the TV and just let it go, you know, and it'll work that way. Do you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, but I just like the ease of not being in the room and people going, "What is that?" You know, and then oh. But you know, if you can't do it, you can't do it. I get it. I completely understand.
What's the name of your cat?
Clipper. She's a feral stray, and I don't know if you can see from here, but she's got one of her ears clipped. We found her that way. But around here, because there's so many feral cats, they'll catch them, and if they see a clipped ear, they know they've been caught, and they spay or neuter them.
Right, and they clip the ear.
And they clip the ear, and that way they know, and they don't have to worry about, let's catch them, and then they don't have to worry about it being clipped.
Hey,
I'm glad she has a good home now.
Yeah, she's the best. She's a little she loves killing squirrels and rabbits, but she brings them in to show me.
Oh my! I bet she's really proud of herself too.
Yes, very proud.
Jaron, share the app. Let me show the new feature, which is coming out on any minute. It should be later today. So you see, we have the new buttons, and the top right one is the world time.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, I saw that little
It shows you what time it is. Like right now, it's 6 a.m. in Eastern Australia.
12 midnight in Madagascar.
Right. Pretty good, right?
Yes.
Cool.
4 p.m. in or is that 4 a.m.? Hold on, let me see here. Now I'm a little. What would it be in South America?
In South America, it's 4 p.m.
Gotcha. I like it.
Yeah.
Bravo, David.
It's 4 o'clock during the day. Right? You got the light and the dark.
Very clear.
And it goes around, goes fast, and then I even fit the zodiac in there.
Ooh, beautiful.
You have to gift it to Zetetic Flat Earth now.
Ugh.
Yeah, and someone in the chat is asking, what is the name of the app, David?
The Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. And if you just search Flat Earth Clock, it's a #1 hit by Blue Water Bay. Now, the Android's not ready yet. That'll be another week before Android has this feature. But Android does have a widget now for all the people that were complaining. And people that have iPhones are like, what are widgets? But it's an Android thing, so you don't even need to know.
David, could you bring up the Jetstream for everyone, in case there's someone who isn't familiar with what we're talking about and we didn't get to show Jason? That blew me away on a personal note, because I always used to think, what is the point of the Jetstream going like this? And I love now, look at it. That makes sense to me. And I know that these things aren't proof of anything alone, but just putting all these dots together and just using common sense for my heart, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, so now look, we have a big alteration in the stream. It's a little messed up compared to how orderly it is other days. So this would be a time where they would either cancel that Santiago to Auckland flight, or it would be 5 hours off on its timing. You know,
well, but it shows you this is why the flight is so much quicker going from New Zealand to South America, because you can see the high winds on the outside, and then going back, you'd have to get into those little red stream going the other way.
Yep.
Which is why it's 4 hours slower. Dave, I'm going to be starting a new show soon called the Jeranism Show. It's going to be a 1-hour show, I think, on Wednesdays. I'm looking for a sponsor, so you'll have to, if you want it to be the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, get mentioned every single time. You have to send me an offer. Or if anybody else wants wants their thing instead, send me an offer as well. I need a sponsor.
Just real quick, I got another question for you guys. I've not voted since Reagan, and the election that's coming up right now is, well, you all know what's going on, but locally they've got something going on where we've got I'm in Missouri, and our governor now, he's we can do, I'm not mandating masks, but if you want to wear a mask, go ahead. But somebody who is challenging him wants to do a complete mandate. What do you suggest? Should I go in and vote on something like that, or just?
Do you have to wear a mask?
To go in to vote? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then don't go.
Yeah. That was my whole thing. I'm just like, man, they just got you by the balls no matter which way you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Thanks guys. Keep it up.
Cheers.
Thanks so much. We got a couple. Oh, what is going on here? Let's do that. A couple super chats real quick. Red Bad said, should have started with the Antarctic Treaty and flight paths. Oh, yeah, I read that one. Red Bad said, Rose is right about the ISS videos. All right. Well, people think that it would have been good to show. I just think it would have been very easy to say, oh, well, that's all you found. It's easily explainable by, I don't know, something else. Whatever Baller Dave would say is what he would have said. Michael Patton, 1986, says, I would have liked to hear his reply to the RV video of astronauts dropping stuff at the International Shill Station. Good show, guys and gal. And Matthew Woodburn says, oh, yeah. Nice. All right, let's go to the next person. How about Eric Bear? Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's
You're on. You're on. What's up?
Hey, I didn't really hear it, just the end of it. But my idea for the best way to go through it with someone is to actually use the housekeeping questions from Flat Earth Debate and just go through those, and then use the Socratic method and have I guess it would have to be more friendly, but have him defend his globe that he believes in.
Well, I think that the point is that he wanted to hear flat Earth evidence, so he said. But we'll have to.
That brings it out, right? So if you ask, how can gas be contained without a container? Right?
We did mention that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was afraid. I don't know why, but I was afraid to mention that. I should have done it, but I think it's just it all goes back to when I was in high school and I asked the question of how can there be something next to nothing, and I got so people were so mean to me just for asking that question, but I really need to harness my confidence with that because it really doesn't make any sense. But yeah, what is the normal response from globe earthers to that piece of evidence?
Gravity. They'll say gravity.
Right. And so when I do my debate on Saturday, I wanted to start off with saying I can guarantee that a lot of the answers to my evidence is going to be gravity, but I don't accept that. So I'm going to challenge them to bring forth arguments that don't include gravity. But I think that might make them mad because it's like, well, you're telling me how to do my arguments. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah. So for that, you just ask them what the vector of gravity is, and then they'll say down, and then you can talk about how gas goes in all directions. So how is gravity affecting gas if the vector is all directions and gravity's vector is down? Or you can just ask them for scientific proof of gravity, which there's none.
Okay,
they can give an example.
Great point, because or when I blow smoke or something, it's going everywhere. How come it's not falling down? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Interesting.
And then
love it. Thank
the
you.
other one is any signs of Earth curvature, any proof of the rotation of the Earth, any evidence of the molten iron core, and then the big one is the radius of the Earth, because then you can go over black swan with them, right? That one kills it. And then if they say that it's refraction, then you can say, okay, well, how do they get the R value then? Because this guy named Al-Biruni, he's said to have figured it out way back when, and then they use the type of refraction called terrestrial refraction, and it has the R value built into it. So it's redundant. So how did they get the R before knowing terrestrial refraction, right? So, and then they can say, well, they can see it in space, and then you go back to the container. You can't go to space. Does that make sense?
It's always a good path to go down. I mean, those are some killer questions. I think his answer would have been, I don't know. I'm not versed on that, you know?
But that's okay. It's okay for people not to be versed on something, and hopefully they'll be curious. That's what we need, is we need curious minds to be like, I didn't have an answer to that, so I'm going to look into it more. And that's the approach that I'm going to take in my conversation with anyone, regardless of what their beliefs are.
I was mistaken in thinking that he didn't think that we went to the moon. For sure, I thought he wouldn't think that.
That's so surprising to me. It's hard to imagine anyone believing in that.
And the whole we don't have the machines to play it back.
Right. I mean, that's just so I started to get disconnected there. Or I started feeling like, okay, wait a second, because not that I don't respect his research or his work that he's done, but he's an interview guy. He does a lot of on the street stuff. Does good work as far as that goes. But somebody who can't come to the conclusion that we didn't go to the moon, having a flat Earth discussion with them is kind of
that's usually my litmus test, and I assumed he knew we didn't go to the moon.
Right. So right then,
well, how old is he?
He's a boomer, I'm sure. Yeah.
They're a big problem, man. They're a problem.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
They're the most heavily programmed people.
Oh, and then he started going into we did it to get one up on Russia, and I was like, oh my goodness, now how do we go into that conversation? Dave tried to go there and say, well, how do we know that Russia is working against us? And
he went into his whole room of simulation. I'm like, oh man.
My dad, I think, said to me that he saw the moon landing, and I think the age he was definitely during his formative years, like when his brain was literally growing. Right. And I told him, like, you didn't see it on the moon. You saw a video of them pointing a camera at another video of them going to the moon. And, a lot of people that age just really, it hurts to budge in that area.
Like you said, right? He believes we went to the globe because he was taught it. So the bad thing about that line of thinking is 20 years from now, when you ask somebody why they believe 9/11, the official story will be because they were taught it.
They were taught it, right? And you know what? They didn't see another argument because it was censored off of the internet.
Right. I mean, that's what's ridiculous about it, is there is no. It's just like, oh God! Thanks for the call, by the way, Eric Bear. I appreciate it. Dave, did you finally watch The Social Dilemma?
Not yet. Is it? Do I have to watch it? Am I going to want to kill somebody?
Yes.
Jason put it on last night, and I couldn't take it. I lasted a couple of moments. I closed my eyes and laid down and snuggled with the kitty, and I was just listening. And every now and then I just turned. It was propaganda. It was such hardcore propaganda. I don't know why people say you have to watch it. You have to watch it. First of all, the truthful aspects of it is nothing new, nothing that we don't already know. We don't want normies to see that because it's total propaganda. And just the pacing of it is so frustrating. It's like it's literally been created for people whose brains do not work properly, and they need to be hooked on this kind of special what's the word? It frustrated me so much I could not handle it. I left.
They were going to bring up flat Earth in it. I thought they were saying, oh, it has some. I didn't know that it was going to be brought up numerous times, and the times that they used it. One time, the guy said the most insane thing I've ever heard. He said, "Look, if we have flat Earth conspiracy theorists, right?" He says, what we could do if we wanted to fix an election. This is how he starts it off. Is he said we could find all those flat Earthers on Facebook, and then we could search Facebook for more people like that who believe that the Earth is flat. And then from that, we could fix an election by sending them misinformation. I was like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, that is the worst example I've ever heard. Wouldn't it be better if you found a bunch of people who hate Trump, then you send them misinformation about Trump, and that's how you fix an election, not by finding a few thousand flat Earthers? It was the dumbest statement I've ever heard. I was like, well, how did that make it into the movie? Didn't even make sense. It was so bad.
We send a link to Jason. Jason wants to come on and talk about it, if that's all right. Do you mind giving him the link?
Cool.
Did you give him the link?
We'll allow him on camera, and he has to be centered on his video.
Yeah, he can't be off to the side like Dave. Dave,
off to the side.
Don't talk about people being
He's
centered.
just going to come audio. He's going to come audio only.
No, I allow that. Hey,
wait, hold on.
You know what aired today? Just came out on Netflix. Is The Challenger.
The movie about it?
Yes.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
That
All
would
right.
be painful.
Oh, by the way, we got a super chat from Billy Zig, and
Challenger, the final flight.
Where was that when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare that thou has understanding. So ask yourself, who on earth today declares to have understanding on how the earth was created? Yeah, not me. But that's why I mean this truth is not for everyone. It's a spiritual journey, like that. The lady, I forgot her name, who had the beautiful house in the sunroom there. Like she said, it's
Linda's co-host.
Yeah, Linda's co-host. It will make life better for you. It really will. I don't know how to explain.
How did I do with my why does it matter? Did I get it?
It's pretty good.
All right.
I saw him rolling his eyes, and that's why I started saying, is he an atheist? Because you said like, oh, we came from nothing and we came from amoebas and our eyes, and he kind of went like, yeah, like he agreed with that. He also used the word.
I'm not sure if you're interpreting that right. He might have been like, that's interesting. Yeah, how did our eyes form?
It is possible.
You were a little scorned there, Jaron. It's okay though.
Well, I didn't want to make my guest mad, and he was mad at me, and I felt bad. All right, Kism, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jaron.
What's up?
David.
Hey.
Hi, guys. I love the app, David. I've had the app for quite a while now. Been flat earther since about 2017. Followed jeranism mainly.
Thank you.
I love all your videos, especially the older ones. They're so good.
Thank you.
Just the main thing about the
wait, hold on a second. What you're saying there, Jaron, is your old videos are good, and you haven't made any good videos lately.
I could make a video. My channel will be gone soon, but if I do, it should be. I'll do it.
All right, sorry.
That was back when YouTube wasn't doing what they're doing now. I can't stand watching YouTube anyway, so I watched on D-Live. I love D-Live. You guys do a great job. I was gonna say about the interview. Wasn't long enough. I know you guys normally can go for 3 hours, but he didn't seem like he really had the time or wanted to do the time. He seemed a little.
Another thing, just to point this out, and David would have helped to know this. I don't think Rose or I knew that he only had an hour.
I thought he had 2 hours. I told him it was 2 hours.
Yeah, so I mean that was kind of a shocker because we probably would have gone a different direction again.
It's okay. I think we did. Yeah. Listen.
Yeah, it's okay.
Quarterbacking, we could have done a couple of things different, but he also was interrupting with long-winded comments and wasn't allowing us to get our points out, so we had to become a little more interrupting.
Yeah. Especially when he's talking about the camera stuff, I was kind of like I felt like he was kind of talking down on people that don't know cameras very well. I guess I don't know how that really.
Yeah, it's optical effect with the United States, being double size. That makes no sense.
Well, first-hand observation is what's going to really kill the globe the most, and so that's the main target against us, I suppose.
Well,
you can't really argue against first-hand observation.
But you can if you say things like it's illuminated up into the atmosphere, it's not rising, there's too many things in between us. That's always the answer. And this is why I think they're able to get away with it. I think that the even the size of the earth that they give us was based on how far people could see. When things started to get too hard to see, that's where they said, okay, we can pretend that the curve starts there or whatever and design a whole system based around that, right? The problem is now we have cameras that see too far, but they're able to get away with it still because they added refraction. Again, like if according to what he was saying, if we could see the South Pole from the North Pole, you could just say, well, it's the way the light bends around the curve. I mean, there's an answer for everything. That's why Baller Dave is so successful. Anything else, Kism, before we let you go?
Yeah, you already showed this, but I was going to point out like the jet stream that Rose showed. That when I first saw that, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I don't know what. Right. It's so obvious, and a lot of the globe, they make it so complicated when it's really just, it's hidden right, it's right in front of you. It's your own senses. They make it too complicated with refraction and everything else. And then I would have just maybe asked him about, when the first time he showed the AE map, he almost looked like deer in headlights, like this first time he's ever seen it to me. And I was like, well, he hasn't researched flat Earth then, obviously, because if you haven't even seen, it's not the perfect model, but that map shows circumnavigation. It shows the polar differences between Antarctic and the Arctic Circle, Antarctica and the Arctic Circle, and it's just, I don't know. And that's the same map that all pilots use. So it's not like it's in their training. It's just so when you were talking about the flight paths and stuff, like that map it's used more often than people think, and people were just unaware of it. You were never showed that map in school, and that map pretty much it is what it is to me. I mean, it's pretty obvious. But my only question was, I don't know if you've seen it lately, but I kind of watch Fox News sometimes. I know they're not the best news, but at least they're not CNN. But they were talking the other night a couple nights now, about they supposedly think there's life on Venus, and I was thought what your thoughts were on that, if you've heard of anything about that.
So stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid. They just.
I mean, just the absurdity of thinking about that. I mean, people don't even think of you.
Aaron, I heard that the life on Venus came from Pluto because Pluto got too cold, so they moved to Venus. And I heard it from a trusted source.
Was it on Monday Night Raw where the guy called in and talked about gold coming from space and we all laughed? I did not know that is the official explanation for where gold comes from.
It is?
Yeah, I had no idea. I'll show you right now.
You know, I think I've heard that. I think that gold comes from the veins of old giant trees, from the roots.
I'll show you right here. I was like, yeah, gold is thought to have been produced in supernova nucleosynthesis and from the collision of neutron stars, and to have been present in the dust from which the solar system was formed. So that's where gold is from, Dave. Jeez, I had no idea. Yeah, just look up where does gold come from. I didn't know that was the mainstream belief in it. All right, Kism, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Take it easy. Where's Jason?
I just texted him asking him if he's backstage, and I don't know where he is.
Backstage. All right. I like the way you guys operate that house. Sounds interesting.
No, I'm backstage in StreamYard. He's not backstage in StreamYard.
I thought maybe you had like behind that curtain there's somebody's waiting.
I thought it was. He said he
pop
wanted
out
to
from behind that tapestry.
Dave, do you know in the little box down there I can like read all your text messages? Am I supposed to be able to see that?
Oh, about that.
It's like reading you right to people about the garden or something. I was like, what the hell's going on? What's Dave doing? Let's see here. Oops, I almost, sorry. Let's go to, until we get Jason. Maybe he just joined, but it says device is not connected. Cinny Minnie, welcome to the show. Uh-oh.
You have no audio. You're muted.
There you go.
I can't believe I found you guys.
We're here.
Hi.
So anyway, Flat Earth, I've been researching it, I don't know, since like 2012. Believe it or not, Obama was giving one of his speeches, know-it-all, and then he goes, I don't have any time for flat earthers. And I'm like, what is he talking about? There's people that believe in flat earth. That was kind of like my tin can moment, like there's something in there.
Right.
So I'm a computer analyst. I'm in IT, been doing it forever. So having said that, I analyze everything. So with me, it's not so much what the truth is. Mine is why the lies. So one thing with Jason, I've been following Jason for a while, and for him to even entertain this, I'm shocked, because if you're ever in his chat or whatever, and as soon as you mention flat earth, poof, you're gone. You know, he's like, I don't have time for that, blah, blah. So I think this is a big step for Jason to even entertain it. So anyway, having said that, I'm not sure how far down in the rabbit hole with symbolism, the Masonic symbolisms, especially coded into everything from our movies to our food to labels, whatever. There's so much symbolism wrapped into the whole globe theory, like what the sun is like 666,000 miles away, or we're spinning that fast. All these numbers are Masonic codes. So I think if, you know, someone was willing to go down that rabbit hole and prove that all these things are codes, Masonic codes, would open up a lot. And then the thing that really got me going, because I know people that work for NASA. I don't live that far from a huge NASA research place, so I know a lot of contractors up there. And Van Braun, isn't he the grandfather or the father of the big ass.
NASA.
Yeah, NASA. There was a technology they named it. He did the engines and everything like that.
V2, all that stuff. Yeah, the Saturn V, the V2.
So
yeah.
I heard a thing. Someone suggested the idea that Werner von Braun is just an actor, an American actor. Never came from Russia or wherever. He's just an actor.
Yeah, I heard that too. But the thing that really got me, it's on his tombstone. He put Psalm 19, which talks about the firmament. Now, why would a father of NASA who's trying to leave Earth put that on his tombstone?
Because they have to play by the rules. They have to tell us the truth. I'm going with a gun to my head. Was he German or is he an American actor? I'm going with American actor.
Yeah, some people said that he was part of the Operation Paperclip, and I heard this years ago before it even got in the mainstream.
The whole Operation Paperclip falls apart when you look at the whole Russian America not really fighting each other. Okay,
not really. They each split.
Those were Nazis that they brought over.
I know, but it was a fake paperclip to bring those actors. I mean, it's all just a stage. The world is just a stage. Who said that?
All right, so
Shakespeare.
Anything left to go? Because we got Jason Lingman. We want to bring him on real quick.
Thank
you. All right. Well, thanks. Nice talking to you guys.
Did you have anything else, or that was it?
No, that was it.
All right, thanks so much. All right, now we'll see if Jason comes on. Jason with the
no photo, just ruining the show.
And,
Picking up for with a beautiful voice.
I'm ruining the show. How am I ruining the show?
Because we have this blank spot in the bottom of the screen.
Pictures there. Now we can't.
Well, I don't use this very often, but I can definitely get an icon up there.
That'll.
All right.
Yes.
We'll take.
So you had the unfortunate experience of having to watch that Social Dilemma, huh?
Well, I watched it on purpose because I had this feeling that I should watch it because so many people are talking about it. And that normally tells me social engineering is going on when so many people are talking about whatever it happens to be. So yes, indeed, I watched it and I was like, this movie is hot garbage for one thing. But second of all, this is Revelation of the Method and they are literally laughing at us. This was fear porn beginning to end, telling everybody, haha, we've got you.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed in the beginning when everyone's getting ready and they're sitting down and they're looking so nervous, it's just such bullshit. I just can't even handle the engineered fear porn where it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this person's putting themselves on the line and they're going to be saying things that they shouldn't be saying and they're probably so scared to say it. And the main guy too, even Jason, you said it best. You were just like, something's wrong with that guy.
Oh, I couldn't stand it. Yeah, he was the guy who started talking flat earth stuff at the end. And the whole thing was, like you said, social engineering, getting people to be now. But like you said, it's revealing that they've already trapped you in this. But they make it sound like the first half of the movie was basically, oh, the AI is so smart and it figured out all these things and it's way smarter than any human. And then later in the show, they're talking about, oh, it has this unfortunate thing where it pushes fake news and fake news moves faster through the social media than real news. I'm like, time out. Who says what's fake news? Again, if something comes up like Pizzagate and that moves quickly through social media, you can't then say, well, fake news moves faster through social media than actual news because actual news is boring. I mean, what are you talking about? You can't just say it's fake news. They're using it so that people now really want. The whole point of that movie was so that people want there to be an objective truth that social media is allowed to push. And that's what I saw in it, where they want, and they said, because we can't do it any other way, it's going to ruin human society unless there is a purveyor of truth. This is what they want. This is what they want from YouTube. This is what they want from every social media. They want, if you talk about flat earth, I mean, some of the descriptions they were giving were ridiculous when they said, oh, well, if you watch flat earth videos, this thing wants you to watch more flat earth videos. We know that's not the case with flat earth because when you watch a flat earth video, the next video is a debunking video. When you search flat earth on YouTube, you get anti-flat earth stuff. You get the debunking stuff. So it's not at all what they're talking about. Now, granted, if somebody watches me 2 or 3 times, then the next day when they're open their iPhone, yeah, I'm probably recommended to watch my latest show. That's just the way the system works. I mean, that's what they want. So, what did you think, Jason? What else did you get out of it?
Well, it's certainly not what a lot of people think it is, which is damage control of some sort. It's not damage control. That was put out there. I mean, think about that's the number 4 movie on Netflix right now, if I remember what they said at the little intro. And that was put out there to manipulate the normies, of course. I mean, it was nothing but social engineering, fear porn propaganda from beginning to end. Because if you didn't know that much about this, think about like the normie type person who would watch that then. And what notions would be implanted in their mind. I mean, I was just like appalled the whole way the whole thing was. And the little red-haired guy with the little beard.
Right.
Well, they all kind of had a similar look. Did you notice that? That's another thing I picked up on really quick. They all were dressed very, very similar.
Techie, yeah.
Yeah, they all kind of had that slightly hipsterish kind of thing. It's like they chose these people specifically, except the ones who were on the slightly different side, like the doctors and things that they brought on, the instructors, the professors. They had another look that was very synonymous to each other. It was very, very well constructed, but that thing is hot garbage.
Yeah, no,
Can't wait to watch it.
We're talking. Everybody in the chat's asking what we're talking about. It's called The Social Dilemma. It just came out on Netflix the other day. Kept hearing people tell me that I needed to watch it, and I didn't know why, and I didn't know that they were going to.
You already know everything that's in there, dude.
Yeah, it's a waste of time. We can be putting our energy towards better things. We shouldn't be watching this bullshit.
Yeah, you don't have to watch unless you want to get upset at the ways that they try and use flat Earth in there as their, and Pizzagate. When they talk about Pizzagate again,
it was all wrong. Everything they did, it was bullshit.
Right. And when YouTube has removed all Pizzagate information, of course, when people go look for it now, all they find is nonsense and people saying it was fake. Why? Because you're not allowed to post about that subject on you can't put it on Facebook, you can't put it anywhere. So the truth is just, it disappears. And what becomes the truth is what the majority of people have adopted.
Right. It's what they were taught.
Right.
What you were taught. And that's how that works, doesn't it?
Right. Exactly.
Because I caught that part of the discussion with Jason.
Yeah, because that's what he was taught. And again, I mean, somebody that's their proof, and then they're going to try and refute flat Earth ideas is just, to me, kind of spinning your wheels. It's kind of wasting your time. It's the way I look at Ball or Dave. It'd be very easy to do. I wish that was my job.
Well, Ball or Dave's trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see here. We got more people. Let's add Thomas to the stream. Thomas, welcome to the show.
Hey. Look, you started, Jason.
Now everybody's going,
Oh,
okay.
You don't want to see me right now.
Good day, gentlemen.
What's up?
First and foremost, I want to extend my condolences to Dave in regards to the loss of your mom.
Thank you, Tom.
Bless her heart. Bless you. Bless the world. You have touched so many people, Dave. And I've been following you guys now for almost 2 years. And I really look forward to listening to you guys on Monday nights on Jeranism Raw.
Thanks.
Sometimes, most of the time, I have a severe problem with the volumes. You need to kick up the volumes on the shows when you guys think of it, because I can barely hear you, Jaron. Okay, I can barely hear you. When I hear Bob, he comes on the Sunday show, Globebusters, on the Friday night or Friday afternoon show, on Monday evening on Republic Radio or whatever. Yeah. So anyway, in regards to the information you guys have been talking about flat Earth, my grandfather told me when I was a young boy that when he came back from Europe after World War I, he said he could see New York, and it took him 2 days to finally get to it once he saw New York. He was on a boat coming from Europe, and he could see that city 2 days before he arrived there. So when I remembered that, probably 3 years ago, and he talked about the places that he went to, one of them being Coney Island, and he couldn't believe that he could see that far, that many days, the city of New York.
Going a half a mile an hour, so he's only 24 miles off the coast.
No, I think back then we're probably going about 8 to 12 knots. But anyway, the other thing I wanted to say is keep up the great work. By the way, I've been doing some incredible research in regards to taking control of the estate as the entitlement holder and the beneficiary. And if you gentlemen would like to find out, and lady, if you would like to find out too, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to preclude or remove you. But if you gentlemen would like to find out about this, how powerful this is, basically doing a power of attorney, establishing the entitlement holder position on a birth certificate, doing a security agreement and a notice of lien, you take control of your estate that was created when the event and issue took place. And of course, you're about to have a blessed child come into your life, and there will be an event and issue, and there will be a birth certificate created as a result of that.
We actually cover this a lot on Crow 777 Radio, and we did a show about claiming your deed on real estate. And so we actually had Derek Soroka in the chat today. What's up, Derek Soroka? So I encourage you to check out episode 225 of Crow 777 Radio. It is awesome, and there's some amazing things that he's doing. I can't wait to have him back for an update on his success.
What's his name again?
Derek Soroka, DerekSyroka. And that's episode 225 of Crow 777 Radio. You should totally check it out. And I would love to know your response because we're all in this together. We're all doing our own research. And I love putting our heads together on this topic.
Well, a gentleman, real quick, I'll just finish with this. A gentleman in Northern Oregon went about this process using the Patent Trademark Office to reverse engineer what had been done to him as a result of the mortgage that he created, that he signed back in about 2001. He got emails from the Patent and Trademark Office, finally recognized him, and they basically were allowing him to go ahead and make a claim on everything that was tied to his name, his digital name. He got 3 emails. First email was 9 pages, and there were 32 entries per page, and the smallest amount was $200 billion per tranche, and it went from $200 billion to $600 billion on each page, and that was just one of 3 emails. So I've given you guys my email address at thomas.ford@jmccswing.com.
Yeah, it's in the chat, Dave. If
I see it. Thank you. All right. Thanks for the information.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Great to meet you. Thank you. Oh, and we're also going to be recording with a wonderful gentleman named Dr. Wentlin, and he's covering a lot of information about changing information regarding the birth certificate. I don't know if Jason can recall the Skype chat that we had. We have had so many conference calls recently. It's out of control.
We have. It's like an avalanche is going on now. Now that we've been doing so much with the law, we have all these people contacting us, some of them who actually really know their stuff. We have 2 older gentlemen who've been doing this for a long, long time, and I'm so looking forward to these.
Yeah, that's going to be a great show when we record that.
Cool.
All right, we got one more. Let's try and get this call in. Your friendly flight attendant. Welcome to the show.
Kevin?
Hello. How y'all
2
doing?
times in one day.
Yes.
Hi.
I've been.
How you called into the
Yeah,
poppycock?
Right on. So I just wanted to make a comment about y'all having Jason Goodman on. Dude, that is huge, man. That dude does not take any garbage. I love when he's walking down the street and someone just even looks at him wrong, dude. He is so quick to snap. I love it, man. I love his attitude.
He's a badass, but he's very
and
the right word. He's very I don't know. What's the right word?
Hesitant.
I
don't know. What you call
He's
but I
cautious,
think
and he wants to
y'all-
take in the information and look into it for himself. And I think he's going to do that. And I have every intention of talking to him again about this. We should
Anybody
wrap it
that
up.
really looks into it comes out on the side. It's not a ball. I mean, that's easy. It's just getting past that. I can make an excuse up for everything. Baller Dave does. It's so easy.
Or at the very least, that everything we've been taught about space and where we live is completely misdescribed. I mean, you have to get to that point. And you want to believe that, okay, maybe we're on a sphere and everything rotates around us. I mean, there's a lot of other directions you can go. I don't think you would go that direction because you can't find the curvature and for all the flat earth proof reasons. But to just say, no, I believe everything that I was taught and it all makes sense to me when it doesn't match any of your senses, it's just simply what you were told. There's nothing about the sun that tells you it's 867,000 miles wide. I mean, when I say that, I still don't know if people actually hear that. I mean, they say the sun, go look in the sky right now, is 867,000 miles wide. It's absurd. It really is. And the distance to the stars is absurd. And the fact
Jared, so far away, it makes perfect sense.
It's absurd, Dave. It really is. But again, the only reason people believe it is because that's what they were taught. There's really no other reason. Sure, you can say, oh, it makes sense to me. Well, yeah, they've come up with a mathematical thing to tell you you're spinning at what. And again, this is what I said before, right? It doesn't matter at this point if they told you we're actually flying around the universe at 137 trillion miles per hour. Nobody would be able to say like, oh, wait a second, now that doesn't make sense. No, you've already accepted that the absurd numbers that they give you are correct. So it doesn't matter what they come up with. It doesn't matter what number they say. They say, oh, you're flying around at 457 quadrillion miles per hour, and your only response to that would be like, yeah, it makes sense. That seems right to me. I mean, that's, we can't feel when I'm in a plane, so how would I feel if I'm going 870 billion miles per hour? It's kind of funny. But I don't know. To each their own. If people don't see it, they don't need to. I don't know. That's how I see it. I'm not going to fight with people over. I'm glad he came on, and hopefully we planted the seed, and he can go from there. What are you going to do?
Yep.
Flight attendant, do you have anything else for us?
Where did you go? Oh, no.
You're now free to move about the country. All right. And Jason muted. All right. It was a fun show, guys. I enjoyed it.
Me too. That was fun.
I think you guys
hope we
did
do
great.
this again.
I think you planted some good seeds. That's what I think happened there.
All right.
Yeah. Maybe next time we can do as people said, maybe we should have gotten together and had a little powwow first. We kind of just went into it like, hey, it's just a conversation.
I've done that, and just you always go take a left-hand turn after the first question.
Yeah,
you never go down that path.
No, it doesn't work. You just have to kind of let it go. And once I saw something, I didn't want him to get mad at me and leave either. That's not a very good host. You don't want your people just leaving. He's like, if you say that one more time about me, I'm out of here. Like, all right, Rose, Dave, your job. You stay. All right, what do we have coming up, Dave? You have anything coming up this week?
I have a friend that I grew up with who I'd like you guys to do the same with. Would you be up for that? My buddy Matt.
Let's do it.
Somebody he's my age. We went to school. We used to play in bands together for years. He's open-minded, and he thinks the earth is round, but he's very open-minded, and he's really been waking up to a ton of stuff, probably like the past year or so, and he's always messaging me. So I think it's a good time to hit him up.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, he said he would, right? He already said he would.
He said he would.
Space Shot 76. These guys do a lot of Q stuff, but they're very intelligent about it. It's very interesting. And the other day they were talking about Flat Earth, the two hosts of the show, and they were schooling each other on Flat Earth. Like it was. I'm listening. I'm like, these guys are already there, but they had followed you and I, Jaron, for a year ago or so, and then they kind of been doing their own thing, but now they want to talk about Flat Earth. It's going to be a layup. These guys are going to school me on Flat Earth, I think, and but he's got a sizable following, so that's nice. So it'll be fun getting questions from the chat there.
Maybe for the flat smacking, it's better if I'm not there, because I've watched you and Rose do it many a times, and never before has a guest threatened to leave.
Well, that was Jason Goodman. Come on, man. He's Jason Goodman is a unique character. I'm still a fan, even though he was very resistant to accepting things that made total sense. But that's okay. It's
very good.
Serves his purpose. But that's.
Jason's big problem was that he doesn't see why.
What's that, Jason?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think Jason Goodman's big problem was, from what I can gather, is that he doesn't see why this would happen in the first place. Like, he's a very practical, straightforward kind of guy, and I could just tell by the look on his face and when you guys were throwing things at him, he just doesn't see the point of why this would be a lie. And
Ole was trying to talk to him about 9/11 and no planes, and he didn't. I don't want to say he didn't want to have any part of it, but he didn't want to have any part of it.
It was just too far for him.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's a practical thing. does it make sense to have planes when you could have planes, or to have no planes whatsoever, but there's footage of it? Like I could see where he's coming from, you know?
I could see it too, but when you really look at it, the whole plane thing, you can't have planes on 9/11. You can't. There was no option. You can't. But that's a whole nother show that we'll just end the YouTube stream for.
Well, I think people are all good at different things, and he's great. Like I said, with his on the street stuff, some of his interview stuff is great. So I've learned not to go to him for my what is the shape of the earth stuff. Luckily, there's a lot of other people that I like to go to for that content because he's not the one for me. But again, I really appreciate him being on, and appreciate Dave setting that up, and Rose for being here, and Jason for stepping in. And Rose, so Saturday you have your debate. Anything before that?
I don't think so. I think that is the next thing I've got going on. And then on Sunday, I have Bitches Brew on my channel.
Nice. And you're off your strike? Did they release you? Yes.
No,
right?
everything I'm doing is on my backup channel. I almost have 1,000 subscribers on my backup. So I guess it's nice that I had this opportunity to build up a backup channel. And then every morning that I do the Poppycock Report, as soon as it's over, I premiere it on my main channel for people who want to sleep in. And so, I keep trying to live stream and it just says you're not allowed to. So I do believe that I will not be able to stream on my main channel until December 2nd. Oh, seems so long.
Oh, you got one of those. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Jason, do you have anything you need to tell people about? Oh, by the way, Rose, your show is 6 p.m. Pacific?
AM.
Saturday? No, Saturday.
Oh, that's that's correct. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. So 8 p.m. for me in Central.
Gotcha. That'll be a fun show.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got the release with Tom Barnett coming on Saturday on Crow 777 Radio, and we're probably going to release a third as a total freebie to everyone with Michael Hoffman, the gentleman who actually knew James Shelby Downard and did the work with King Kill 33 and all that. He's a very, very busy man. He's a writer. He has a bunch of obligations, but he still took an hour out to speak with Crow and I, and that was one hell of a chat.
Yeah, so that will be an hour for everybody.
All right. Any final words, or is that it for me? We have the lounge tomorrow, 12 noon, unless my wife gives birth, in which case there'll be no show.
That does happen.
You will be home, Jaron, during the birth. You can say in and out.
The worst thing about it is I was actually planning, like, if she gives birth, because if people don't know, Dave knows this. I mean, I haven't taken a break in 5 years, right? I haven't taken a week off. Even when we went to conferences, I live streamed from there, whatever. So I was like, I'm going to take like a month off and just say, hey, I needed some time with the baby. Then Rodrigo had his baby, and within 24 hours, he was on my Friday Lounge show. I was like, dude, you're just screwing me royally here.
I went kite surfing the other day, and a buddy had his baby. He goes, yeah, I'm a new dad. I go, when? He goes, this morning.
Oh.
He's kite surfing in the afternoon.
I'm going to see if Missa goes for that one. I'm going to do something just ridiculous. What could I do that would be just a ridiculous thing for a dad to do? Go gambling. Babe, I'm going. No.
Unfortunately, that probably does happen with people who are addicted to gambling.
I'm trying to think of something else. What else would be ridiculous to go do? I'm going to go golfing. I'm going to go golfing by myself.
buy an ice cream truck or something.
Yeah, something ridiculous. FEMA Region 4 says, Jason, can you unblock me from your channel, please? Oh, I don't think I said any bad words. I don't know if he's talking about me or you. You can't be blocked. Talking.
As long as he's not one of Super Troll's people, sure, I might have blocked him by accident.
Happens.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that when they get blocked from a channel, it very well could have been a mod that did it.
Right.
A lot of people, so we have to be made aware of.
I blocked a ton of people recently because of Super Troll, but I may have scooped up. What's that?
What's Super Troll?
I don't even want it, Jason.
Huh?
Let's not get into it.
No, I don't want to get into it. I'll tell you off the air if you want to know about this, and it's about to be dealt with anyway. So, but Dave knows who this person is.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes, you do actually, but we'll talk about it off the air. It's a big issue. The dude is nuts, like literally out of his mind nuts.
Okay.
Relax.
All we need to say.
All right.
All right. It's fun, guys. We'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody. Do your own research, because when you do, you'll never again believe what you've been taught, or maybe that is your reason for believing that you live on a globe, because it was what you were taught makes it very true. All right. Talk to you guys later. Peace.
See ya.